Representative Adams. Bailey.
Here.
Bauer. Bordelon.
Here.
Casper.
Here.
Chase.
Here.
Sini. Mallory. No, Mallory Doyle. Frickman.
Yeah, that's.
He's here. He's here.
Mallory Doyle, she resigned.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Gustafson. Ooh. He'll be here late. Hanscom.
Here.
Gutowski.
Here.
Marley. Marshall.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Massett.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Melendez.
Here.
Mello Miller.
Here.
Merritt.
Here.
Monahan. Newsom.
Here.
Oliver.
Here.
Pasqualini. Perry.
Here.
Powers. Puccini. Notice. Quinn.
Here.
Richards.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Stanford.
Here.
Streeter.
Here.
Jim Streeter. Judith Strode. Wagner. Washington.
Here.
Wells.
Here.
Whitehouse.
Here.
Whitney.
Here.
And Evan.
Here.
32.
All right. I've received communications from Representative Wagner that she will not be able to be with us tonight, and from Representative Gustafson that he will be late. Beyond that, I've also had a request from the Legislate Health that they would like to be first on the agenda. So we're going to start out with account 1054, and Representative Oliver will take us through the minutes of his committee.
Just a quick question. For each minute or discussion, I'll stop at each cost center, correct?
Yeah,
Right.
let's vote on them.
So count 1054. Over here.
And just to orient you, in Appendix A, page 11, you'll find the breakout.
So account 1054, Health and Agencies, cost center 10540, Legislate Health. Motion of $289,354 was approved and seconded by Rep. Oliver and Rep. Strode. There was a discussion. The Director of Health, Steve Mansfield, provided an overview and explained that the per capita rate will remain at $7.37, same as last year. A vote was called, and in favor of the $289,354 were Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, and Strode. None opposed, none abstaining, and Madam Moderator, I make the motion for $289,354.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for Legislate Health, $289,354, and it's been seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I was wondering if the director could come up and talk about Lyme disease in the area. And he was talking about a program where you can drop ticks off if you find them, and they will analyze them for you. I was wondering if you could just let the body know about that.
Is that included in this budget, just to keep us on point?
It
Oh,
is.
then
it
you
is
got
included
it.
in the budget, yes.
Thank you, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you. I'm representing Director of Health.
Could you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry.
'Cause
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jennifer Muggio. I'm the Supervisor for Finance and Administration and Special Projects and Population Health at Ledgelight. I'm representing Director of Health Steve Mansfield, who had a meeting in one of our other member towns this evening. Yes, we have an active Lyme disease surveillance and prevention program, and that does include submission of ticks that were found. They have to be found on a person, engorged deer ticks, and we'll submit them to the state agricultural lab for testing and identification whether or not they are carrying the bacteria that causes different tick-borne diseases. Okay.
Sorry, I was hiking just before I came here.
We're also monitoring the prevalence of Lyme disease and other tick-borne diseases in the jurisdiction, and we have a Lyme disease task force that's meeting now to talk about prevention activities, which include both promotion of personal protective measures that people on their own can take, and also things we could do in public settings like parks.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Representative Mello Miller?
Thank you. Just point of clarification, I'm looking at the summary of outside agencies, and I see Sexual Assault Crisis Center of Eastern Connecticut. You have a 0, and then 2,000
I think that's a different account.
Oh,
Yeah, we're just doing the Ledgelight Health 1040, it's 1054-0.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize for the misunderstanding.
That's fine. All right, seeing no more hands, I think we're ready for a vote. This is account 10540, Ledgelight Health District, $289,354. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Ms.
much.
Maggio. And the next one will be do VNA. Is it VNA?
Correct. So,
Mary Lanzini? Would Ms. Lanzini like to join us? Thank you.
we got the names. For cost center 100541, VNA Health, School Health, committee, a motion was made for $1,081,278. The motion was made by Rep. McDermott, seconded by Rep. Strode. The members of the committee asked if there's a state statute for the ratio/number of nurses required in school. Marge Fundulis did explain that the number of special needs kids has grown significantly, particularly with asthma and diabetes. There was a vote in favor for $1,081,278 by Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, and Strode. None opposed, none abstaining. Make the motion for $1,081,278.
Is there a second? Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor for VNA School. It's account 10541, $1,081,278. Is there any discussion or questions? Representative Washington?
Thank you. How many nurses are we talking about, and do all the schools have the same amount of nurses?
Each of the schools here in Groton has a full-time nurse, and there is a half-time nurse that is shared with the City of New London, so she's half-time in New London, half-time in Groton, and circulates among all the schools.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I had a question. The non-nursing staff that work in the nursing office, Is that also contracted through you guys as well, or is that a separate account?
Yes, ma'am.
And-
They're called school health aides.
Correct, yes. And how many do we have per school?
There's no more than one per school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are we in compliance with the proper amount of nurses at the high school?
As,
Per the population, there's supposed to be one nurse per, was it 700 and something students? Is that correct?
That's a general rule of thumb.
Okay.
There actually is not a state statute about any number of students per nurse. As you heard in the minutes recollected, it's a very old statute in the state of Connecticut that says each school district must have one nurse.
Right. And so, just for clarification purposes, for the elementary school, schools which are under 700 and something, the majority of them, and they also have an aide, you find that that's really important due to the special ed need population, as well as students that have other major health conditions that.
Yes, often in what happens in the school is the nurse is involved, perhaps giving a treatment to a special needs student, tube feeding, calculating food for a diabetic, and the school health aide is there to attend to minor first aid and occurrences otherwise in the health room. So yes, we do find that that's needed. We do recommend that to the Board of Education for coverage.
Okay. And you guys have no direct link to the school-based health center. So some schools also have a school nurse, a school-based health center, and these health aides as well. Is that?
If you think of the school-based health center is like a doctor's office implanted in the school. It's completely separate from the school health program, which is the school nurse and the school aide.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
I had a question about the health aides myself. What is their background in terms of educational or qualifications for that job?
The qualifications are they have to be a high school graduate, they have to take a Red Cross first aid course that we teach at the VNA, and they have to be CPR certified.
Are teachers required to take that first aid course as well? Do you know?
I have no idea. I have no control over the teachers.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other, Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Do the nurses go on field trips? And if so, is that a different cost than just being in the school?
Yes. The only time a nurse accompanies a group on a field trip is if there is a student that requires nursing intervention for, an example would be a diabetic child who's not stable and would need nursing care during that time. And that is under the budget in the Board of Education. They contract directly with us for the specific number of hours of that field trip. And they can also contract other places for those nurses. If we have nurses available, we do supply them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Would you like to ask a question? Town Clerk?
I'm just curious. I just heard something that medical treatment being performed. Why don't we have the insurance companies pay for medical treatment versus taxpayers?
I don't think the types of things that are being done in the school would necessarily qualify for specific medical, insurance reimbursement. If there is reimbursement available, it's ordinarily through the Medicaid program, and the schools do get reimbursed for, at least they're given the information so they can get reimbursed for those specific treatments.
Oh, good.
Any, Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Moving on to the community and health and wellness section, can you explain a little more about your blood pressure, flu clinics? This is at the senior center, I'm assuming?
Most of them are held here at the senior center, but there are also some of the blood pressure clinics are held in the low-income housing in Groton.
I'm sorry, say that last piece, I apologize.
In some of the subsidized housing in Groton?
That's a different account.
Okay.
That's a different account, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry, I moved on, sorry. I skipped.
Anyway, thank you. Any other questions? No? All right, I guess we are ready to vote because you're not raising your hands. I'm going to get you raising your hands. Account 1054-1, this is just VNA School, $1,081,278. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
So that motion carries 31 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention. All right.
Cost Center 10542, VNA Health Promo. A motion for $33,968 was made by Rep. Hanscom, seconded by Rep. McDermott. There was no discussion. A vote was called for $33,968, and in favor was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, and Strode. None opposed, none abstaining. Make a motion for $33,968.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for VNA Health, account 1054-2, and that's $33,968. Are there any questions or discussion? Representative Katowski?
Thank you. It's nice to see you here. Apparently you had someone else come when you did your presentation to the town council who didn't really have any information. So my question is, when you look at this account, how is the blood pressure wellness clinics and the flu clinics not duplication of services? I mean, people can get their blood pressure checked for free at Walmart. So why are we spending this money? And we didn't get a good answer at the town council meeting. I was hoping you have one.
So your question is, why is Groton spending this money to
The question
offer this
is that
service to the senior citizens in town?
This account looks like duplication of services, because Ledgelight does this. You can get this done at Walmart. So I'm just wondering if this is duplication of services.
Well, it's been a service that's been provided here in town for many years,
Right.
and it seems to be something that the seniors and the program folks here at the senior center appreciate having provided
Right.
in the center. I am not sure who conducts blood pressure clinics in the at Walmart, but here we have registered nurses who can also spend time discussing medications and making referrals to physicians, doing other general nursing support.
So it's sort of a referral service that you're providing here.
I suppose you could call it that, screening and referral, yes.
Okay. Well, it just seems like we have so much duplication of effort in Groton, and this just seems like it's a total duplication of effort. So I'd like to move another number. 0?
Second.
All right, we have a motion, amended number of 0 on the floor. It's been seconded. Representative Richards, did you want, well, first of all, let me ask, Representative Katowski, did you want to speak more on that point? Or you, Representative Richards?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Could you tell us how many people a year use the services, the flu clinic and the blood pressure and wellness clinics, to get an idea of the volume?
The flu clinics, 354 people received their flu shots in the last fiscal year. Blood pressure screening, there were 156 clinics, 1,799 people attended.
Thank you.
Representative Bordelon, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Would you say that this is servicing people maybe that do not have transportation and ways to get to the doctors, physical disabilities and elderly that are maybe homebound?
The homebound, let's set that aside for a minute and I'll answer that part.
Yeah.
But for people who have difficulty with transportation, that's part of the reason why having it here at the senior center, having some of the programs here at the senior center is helpful because there is transportation here. There's also there's also clinics that are held in areas where a number of seniors or disabled live. That also makes it easier for them to attend. As far as people who are homebound, if they have acute medical needs, that really is a separate thing that is done by the home health care part of visiting nurses. But the town only pays for those services in the instance where there is no insurance and no financial means to pay for it. So if, as part of the $33,968, there is a portion of it, $20,000, that is set aside for indigent care. And so those are people who have no insurance, who don't qualify for Medicaid, who have no other way to pay for services. They're homebound, and they receive these services in order to stay out of the hospital or out of other higher levels of treatment.
And is it possible that you can manage this with maybe LPNs or certified, because blood pressure, I mean, you just need basically a basic PCT, which they're paid a lot less, to continue services. Is there a way that this can be rearranged and still provide the same service and maybe cut cost?
Well, we actually do not provide that level of service. We provide skilled nursing service. If people want to just get their blood pressure checked, they can go to Walmart, they can go to a local pharmacy to do that. This is more than just getting the blood pressure checked.
I was just checking because I know LPN's framework could cover.
LPNs are not really supposed to work independently without being under the supervision of a registered nurse, so it would defeat the purpose of trying to save money to do that.
Thank you so much.
Representative Whitehouse, did you have your hand up?
So I heard a phrase that is always very concerning to me when talking about a budget, which is, and I don't remember the exact wording, but something along the lines of, this is the way we've always done it, which my initial reaction to, we do this because this is the way we've always done it, is we should change it. But so I'm looking at the breakdown. So $20,000 for indigent care would be care they're not going to get somewhere else. Is that correct?
That's
because they
correct.
don't have insurance. The flu clinics, is that anything beyond a flu shot?
No, that is a flu shot.
And is that different in some way from the free flu shots that you get at CVS and Walgreens?
Ordinarily, those aren't free. They're charged through insurance, but it's the same thing, same vaccine, same thing, yes.
So do these go to people who don't have insurance?
There are some people who come that do not have insurance, and we would provide it without insurance, yes.
If they do have insurance, do we charge the insurance, or are we paying for what would otherwise be covered?
We bill only for the vaccine, the shot,
But,
to the insurance company. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I didn't complete
so
that
so
sentence.
we're not paying for shots for people who have insurance that the insurance should be paying for?
That's correct.
All right. And then the third part there is wellness clinics, and is this primarily people who do not have other access to health care?
I can't answer that question for you.
Because my concern is that it's very convenient, and often people go to things that are convenient because they're convenient, and if you were to take them away, they just go to something else that we're not paying for. And in this same account, I'm looking at a lot of really nice things not getting funded, like I'm not saying this isn't nice, but with cuts to the library, cuts to other programs, and I don't think I agree with zero, but I feel like there's some place between that makes more sense. I'm going to move 24,000, please.
Second.
May I just respond to your comment about this is the way we've always done it?
Yes.
I did also follow that on, because I also do not believe in doing it the way we've always done it. But I followed on by saying this is what the citizens that come to the clinic seem to want, and they attend. This is a 20%, 20.24% reduction over last year. Just further information.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, but my reasoning with the 24,000 is that certainly the 20,000 for indigent services seems like a very important thing to do, because they would not get service otherwise in any other way. And it seems like some of the wellness clinics, again, might be reaching people who would not otherwise get service. But I feel like some of that may simply be, and of course people who attend like it because that's why they attend. But it's a matter of the entire town. And there's many other things that if we use that logic of if the people who benefit from it could decide to be there, then we'd have a much larger budget. So, thank you.
All right, Representative Newsom? No, you're good. Representative Whitney?
Thank you. I think I had the numbers right that you said there were 354 people who got flu shots last year.
I'm sorry.
I think you said that 354 people got flu shots last year. And if I'm right on that, then $1,000 for that is less than $3 per person. Seems like good value. And then for the blood pressure screenings, that was 1,799.
Yes.
And at a cost of $12,960, that's less than $10 a person. Also, I think a great value for preventative care. And then particularly the biggest single item is the $20,000 for indigent care, and that is not just people without insurance, health insurance, but people who they aren't eligible for health insurance for other means. And I think it's a society. These are the very people, that's one of the reasons we have town governments and community services, is to protect the people that are most disadvantaged and least able to provide for themselves. It's a small amount of money. We've approved a lot bigger amounts for other things, and I firmly support the original. That's $33,969. Thank you.
Representative Marshall?
Thank you. Just had a quick question. Actually, to the two things. If we were to approve a lower number,
Speak a little louder.
If we were to approve a lower number,
Maybe
we wouldn't be able to dictate what they would spend it on. So that's one point. You said the 20% reduction. Actually, I had a question. What generally has been, in accomplishing that 20% reduction? Like, what was driving that? Like, why cut 20%?
Why did I cut 20% in offering the budget? Mm-hmm. We looked at the participation last year. We looked at the efficiency of where and how we deliver the clinics, and that was a cut that we were able to make.
Well, thank you for doing that. I support the original number, 33,000.
Representative Casper, did you have your hand up for it?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. It does seem like a small amount of money, looking at the big picture, and it's for my favorite people, elderly, who paid in their years in this town, have paid a lot in taxes, mostly for schools, of which they may or may not have had children. And I just think it's absurd not to fund the full amount. I mean, you're trying to cut the budget, a meaningless amount, on the backs of those who need it the most. Thank you.
Anyone? Other questions, hands? No? Seeing none, I think we'll vote on Amendment 3, the number 24,000 for VNA Community Health. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to speak, Representative Monahan?
I just want to say that I would support the 33,000 figure. The difference between the Walmart person and the registered nurse of the VNA, we have a population of people who are not regular attenders to medical care, and these people are able to detect other problems that these people might not even know about. So it's as Representative Whitney said, this is a very good value for our money. It's a small amount of the budget. It's silly to claim that this should be a savings.
Madam Moderator?
Yes. Representative Whitehouse,
I'd like to withdraw my amendment.
you have to get your seconder to agree.
Second.
No,
To
The
agree.
original.
Who seconded it? I didn't.
Kotowski.
Kotowski, will you?
I don't know. Yes.
Okay. So we have a number on the floor of 0. And all in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, sorry. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention. Okay. One abstention. Who abstained? Chase. That's 4.
What was that?
4 out of 31. 32, I'm sorry. 4, because we have one abstention. 3.
What's the number? I'm sorry.
28 in favor, 3 opposed, 1
Okay, 28 in favor. That was for 0. So it was 3 in favor, 28 opposed, 1 abstention. Is that correct? You gave it to me opposite. All right, so we have another number on the floor, 33,968. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So we, that motion passes, 29 in favor, 2 opposed, 1 abstention. Thank you. Okay, Groton Ambulance, 1054-3, I guess.
Yep. Cost center 1054-3 Groton Ambulance. The motion was made by Rep. McDermott for $52,976 and was seconded by Rep. Strode. Discussion, Chester Kaniak, sorry if I butchered your name, the VP of Groton Ambulance Association was present. The committee commended him on a job well done and encouraged the association to provide more training in CPR classes to the public. A vote in favor of $52,976 was made by Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, and Strode. None opposed, none abstaining. Madam Moderator, I motion $52,976.
Okay. We have a motion, it's been seconded for Groton Ambulance, $52,976. Is there any questions or discussion? No? Representative Washington?
I didn't attend that committee meeting, so can you please tell me why you need the $52,976?
So my name's Taylor Salva. I'm the president of Groton Ambulance. The gentleman that attended the council meeting was our vice president, Chester Kaniak. So basically what our stance is on that is we are a nonprofit organization providing the EMS service to Groton. That funding goes towards things like standby events where we offer a non-dedicated ambulance to things like sporting events for the schools and things of that nature. Calls where we assist the public where we cannot reimburse insurance and that sort of thing. Those are the primary needs of those costs. It essentially provides some funding towards our operations, which are very costly. And as reimbursement rates are set by the state statute, there's not a whole lot to change our income.
Representative Bordelon?
I'm in full support of the funding, but currently you guys don't pay any, I know you have nothing to do with it, but you guys currently don't pay rent, so we already give you a free service in the town. So I kind of have trouble with the $52,000. I know that you guys are nonprofit, but we give you a building. And I think that's pretty generous, but I don't know.
Representative Newsom?
Can I
Oh, sure.
speak to
You can
that?
speak to
So, a major part of our budget coming up is repairs, capital improvement in that area. Part of the town manager's budget here was for that as well. So we are currently working out a new lease, which we'll see where that goes. But the point is, in the past, that essentially the town has maintained the exterior and we've maintained the interior. And given that the exterior's been in somewhat of disarray, the interior has let go, as it was not really a good idea to repair things that were going to continue to be damaged. So now we're at a point where the town has replaced our roof and a lot of our siding. So now we're in a position to do a lot of interior renovation, and a lot of my budget coming up this next fiscal year is for substantial interior repairs.
Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Can you explain these calls that you don't get reimbursed for, and what percentage of your calls do you not get reimbursed? And do you have volunteers that ride on the ambulance?
So as far as non-reimbursable calls, I do not have those exact figures in front of me. There's a wide range of figures when it comes to reimbursements. But as far as non-reimbursable stuff, anytime that we don't transport somebody to the hospital, that's a non-reimbursable call. Whether a family member calls for an individual and that individual doesn't want to go to the hospital, or something happened and by the time we get there, they don't want to go to the hospital, but we evaluate them still, those situations are not reimbursable. Anytime that somebody falls and needs assistance up, maybe they're not injured, maybe there's not anybody around to help them up, and we come out and assist them, that's not reimbursable. So those circumstances, and obviously anybody that doesn't have insurance, which is very rare these days, but those types of calls are non-reimbursable. And then as far as volunteers, we do have volunteers. We have a volunteer incentive program, and we have more volunteers currently than we've had for quite a long time. We've had several new volunteers this year.
Thank you.
Representative Merritt?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. These interior repairs, of course, coming up, you'll be conferring with the town manager on this?
Yeah.
As it is our building?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we've discussed using the town RFP process to have that work done.
Representative Washington? Oh, let me allow Representative Casper to go first, because you've spoken once.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I've got a couple questions. Do you have volunteers yet?
Yeah, as I just discussed, that we have a handful, several more this year than we've had in quite a long time.
Yeah. And I noticed that your billing agent fees are going up $18,000 this year to $130,000. Can you explain that a little bit?
That's a rate set by them. They increase their rate, as well as it's based on per call that they handle, that they process, and our call volume has gone up by a certain degree, a handful degree in the last year or two.
Representative Washington?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Is there any way you could apply for grants to get reimbursed for some of these reimbursable fees, charges? Non-reimbursable charges.
For the service that we provide, I don't believe so. There are grants for certain things. We recently did receive a grant through the through FEMA for a new exhaust removal system and 2 medical devices that are used for automated CPR. Those were purchased this past year. We did put in for a vehicle acquisition grant and we were denied. We also applied for a grant for physical fitness equipment, which we were denied for as well.
Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. You guys don't teach any classes, do you?
Actually, there's a Stop the Bleed class that's coming up shortly, which will be in this facility, and that's related to tourniquet usage and that sort of thing.
Because I had mentioned this in the committee meeting, it seems like there's a lot of classes that people, whether it's CPR, first aid, et cetera, people be willing to take, but I don't think you guys offer those.
That is something we are trying to expand our public outreach in that area as far as providing classes. Is CPR. CPR is very easy to teach now, so that is something we're looking to do.
So you have to go get certified to be able to teach that, right?
Yes.
And are you guys do you have any plans to do that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Representative Massett?
Could you explain why your volunteer incentive went up from $750 to $10,000?
Yeah, well, so that was made a very conservative number because we recently, like I mentioned, we have a volunteer incentive program to obviously incentivize folks to come in and volunteer. Now, the term volunteer is a little looser than it used to be. As you could see from many towns, volunteerism is a very difficult thing to foster these days with people not having the time available to devote to something where they're not being compensated. So we and like many other services decided that we would try to have an incentive program that would basically compensate those people to a certain degree. It's a points-based system based on how many hours they spend in a shift or how many calls they do, how many meetings they go to, that sort of thing. It's a points-based system, and they receive a small amount of compensation to do that. So that's a new program. As I said, we've had several new volunteers come in, so I wasn't really sure how much to expect that would cost, so I kind of made it a bit conservative.
Representative Streeter?
Thank you. On your breakdown on the budget, are your accounts prorated with what you make and what we're going to provide? Specifically, you have, for legal fees or attorney fees, you have $20,000. Is that coming out of your budget, or is it coming out of the money we, the town, are going to provide you?
I would say that that's our business that we handle.
Also, the utility bills.
Yes.
I notice you have $16,000 for water, electricity, heat, et cetera. Is that out of our money or out of your money?
I would say those come out of our operating cost. That's our operating cost, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Monahan?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I noticed in your budget you have under public outreach, public education, last year you had budgeted $500. This year you've got $4,000. What do you do to spend $4,000 for public education?
Oh, like I mentioned, we're looking to expand those offerings, the public outreach. If our staff is providing that, then obviously they're being compensated for their time doing that. There's costs associated with providing certain classes like CPR, Stop the Bleed. There's different, there's devices involved and things to simulate circumstances to teach people. So there are stationary costs involved as well. So as we're looking to expand that, the cost is expected to rise.
But if staff are teaching it, they're salaried people, correct?
Yes.
So why is there an additional amount for people going out and teaching? They're being paid as your staff.
Well, they would be above and beyond our on-duty crews. Our on-duty crews wouldn't necessarily be able to provide those services.
Thank you.
So my understanding is that this budget, this 52,976 is mostly for non-reimbursed costs, is that correct?
Essentially that, and standbys provided to the school functions.
All right. Anyone else who hasn't spoken? No. All right, are we ready to vote? Representative Newsom, you've spoken twice, so I'm hesitant because I would like to move along.
Very well, Madam Moderator. Move along.
So we have a number on the floor for account 1054, sub 3, 52,976, Groton Ambulance. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? 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 One. Any abstentions? All right. I believe that passes. 31 in favor, 1 opposed, no abstentions.
Thank you.
Cost Center 10545 Service Agencies. A motion of $68,657 was made by Rep. Oliver, second by Rep. Strode. Discussion, the town council voted to increase this amount from $63,657 to $68,657 to restore funding for the Symphony Orchestra field trip for Groton students. Rep. Oliver believes we should keep this additional $5,000 to provide Groton students with this important opportunity. Rep. Hanscom agrees this is an important opportunity but should not be funded by the town of Groton. Voting in favor for the $68,657 was Rep. Oliver. Opposed, Reps. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Strode, abstaining none. The motion failed. A second motion was made by Rep. Hanscom for $63,657, seconded by Rep. Newsom. Voting in favor of the $63,657 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, and Strode. Opposed, Rep. Oliver. Abstaining none. The committee recommends lowering this account back down to $63,657. Madam Moderator, move the motion, move the number.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion for $63,657 for service agencies. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Representative Hanscom.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to clarify or just give reasoning for why I chose not to fund the Symphony Orchestra. I think it's actually something really important for the students, but in my experience, I work as a grant writer, and I really feel like this is something that is basically a grant that writes itself as far as something that they could reach out. And I did a little research and found that they do receive other grants from other foundations, such as the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut, and they have a sort of a robust fundraising. I just feel like that could be something that's a grant and not something that Groton has to pay for.
Is there anyone from the Symphony here who might come up and speak with us? No. Okay. Representative Whitehouse?
Caleb Bailey was here, and he was told that this wouldn't be coming up until much later, and so he said he'd come back.
Okay. Representative.
Yeah, you represent. You should recognize Representative Katowski.
I will. Representative Katowski.
I'm glad you're all sitting down. Okay. I'd like to move another number. 68,657.
60,000?
68,657. I'm glad you're all sitting down.
All right, we have, would you like to speak to that number?
Yes, I would. I think this is important, especially after the concert I saw at Claude Chester last night, and the string performance and the enthusiasm of that teacher was just infectious. And I know the kids look forward to this every year, and that's why I support the mayor's number.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Looking at the full account here, I just had some questions as to why we stopped funding the ARC. Maybe the town manager or someone could speak to the different things that we're not funding, why we're taking away adult day services, things like that.
I might need some help on this one. There's actually a
Because
committee.
I'm having trouble funding the symphony orchestra, which I think the school can pay, but I'm really concerned about special needs people that are not getting day service, or how that funding's working.
There's actually a committee that looks at that. I'm not on that committee, but I have their minutes from it. So for the ARC, it was a request for one piece of equipment. It was thought that that would be grant eligible through different grants.
Okay.
And the chair of the committee.
And the adult day service program. Because once again, like I said, I'm all for the symphony orchestra, but I'm having trouble that we're taking away from the other population. Yeah, behavioral health services. We have a crisis right now with an epidemic. I'm having trouble with that. Connecticut legal services. I mean, I guess I just want some clarification on this account.
I just want to note that we can't go above the town council, so we can go to the number that's our second moved number, but we are not able to put money into any of these accounts.
But I am allowed to
you're
ask as to
referencing.
why they're being cut. I'm looking at
Sure,
them. We're talking on
that's
the whole
perfect.
account, correct?
Mr. Burt, do you have those minutes, or did you want to?
Here's the chair.
Oh, okay, thank you. Ms. Fondulis. Thank you.
My name is Marge Fondulis. I'm Director of Human Services, and I was one of the members of the committee that reviewed these. And in your budget book, Appendix A, on page 22, 23, and 24, it explains how, what our decisions were on the various things. You asked about the behavioral health that's part of, that's actually, that was recommended for funding. And legal services was recommended for funding, but with a reduction, a 5% reduction. We had a request from the town manager that we try to reduce things. And so we attempted to reduce those that we were funding at that 5%.
Well, I guess I guess my comment is I'm all for the symphony, the orchestra, that $5,000, but cutting women's services, cutting the special needs programs, cutting this by 5% to adult people with behavioral health needs, I guess I'm not for, and I hope in future next year that we look to refund these. We have children. It's great for the kids to go sing and listen to music, but we have people in crisis right now. So I just feel like this account to me brings up a red flag, and I have some general concerns about this when we look around the state of Groton right now, what we need and what we want. Thank you.
Representative Mello Miller.
To Representative Wardland's point, I am sure that it was very hard to make cuts to, I think every agency has made a case for why they deserve funding. I'll keep this short. Bottom line is it was $2,000 just to service 70 residents of sexual assault for $28 a person. And I think it's despicable that we cannot fund $2,000 to help people in this community, victims of sexual assault, 24-hour hotline. I think it's absolutely disgusting. We can't do that. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's actually very disappointing.
Representative Marshall? No. Representative Casper?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I believe if you read the page 23, the sexual assault was denied because it duplicated services provided via Safe Futures Incorporated. So rather than make referrals to SACCEC, referrals are made directly to Safe Futures.
Representative Richards? You're okay. Representative Rogers?
I just wanted to echo the comments that I support the
the higher number so that I know we don't get to dictate where the funds go, but I would like to see more support for the services that Representative Bordelon mentioned.
Representative Washington?
I support what Representative Borderline said too. I think funding sexual assault is very important, and Representative Casper said duplicated services. That was the same point that Representative Katowski made about blood pressure and flu shots. So you can't have your cake and eat it too here. So I think, I know we can't dictate where the money goes. I will support a higher number, but I hope that $2,000 goes into the sexual assault, back to Rails on Males, and not into the Symphony Orchestra.
Representative Whitney?
So, it took me a while to get up to speed on this. I still need a little help on this. There are not that many items on page 25 that have changed, but I was wondering if you could comment on, like we're getting to some of the reasons why things were reduced. But for instance, ARC of New London County certainly seems like something very useful, and that was zeroed out too. So I'd like if you just briefly run through the reasoning for those zeroing out. That would be very helpful for perspective. But then, in terms of the Eastern Connecticut Symphony Orchestra, I do know it does have an impact on the children. I think this year they went and saw opera. My kids came home saying they liked opera, which I thought was surprising, but it was definitely eye-opening. And I also know that it definitely pairs well with the arts magnet theme, both in the elementary school and the middle school. So it makes sense to do that. But more importantly, it really, so I'm supportive of the Eastern Connecticut Symphony Orchestra, but I would like to know why some of these other things are zeroed out, because it doesn't seem right at first blush.
I don't think there are that many that are zeroed out. Am I missing something?
There's a lot. Sexual assault.
Yeah, so I mean on page 25, it's ARC of New London County, dental health services, adult day services, primary care, sexual assault, as has been mentioned, and then I guess the Union Baptist Church Groton Community Meals, and then Eastern Connecticut Symphony Orchestra, and Noank Mystic Community Band. So, yeah, that's a lot.
Can you respond to that, please?
The rationale for our decision is included in the narrative that is on pages 22, 23, and 24. I could reiterate what's there, but it's all spelled out. We tried to be very precise as to how we presented it, so it would be
I think it actually is worthwhile to reiterate it if that's all you'd like to do.
Please don't speak out of turn. Thank you. Representative Monahan? Well, it would be nice.
I would appreciate reiterating.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could just maybe hit on the ones that are zero and just go through your rationale. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Before me or after me?
You let them speak, because if you can elaborate or clarify those zeros, it would be helpful to this body.
The ARC, we had, it was, I'd already mentioned that. It was the one piece of equipment that could be funded through grants. And I will mention that these zeros were also zeroed out last year and have not historically been funded. With me, I'll give you my overall opinion is I have trouble funding all the town functions. We're not keeping up with all the buildings and grounds, and so I'm trying to keep things at least at the same level and not expanding. We could have unlimited grant requests. They've been functioning without the funds in the past from us, so I'm trying to toe the line, honestly, just because I need to. But so one at a time. Besides that, ARC, I'd already mentioned. What's next? Dental health. Dental health. Oh, duplicate. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
With the dental health services, we in my department are very aware that most people that need dental health services are using the Community Health Center in New London versus going to Norwich, to the dental clinic at Norwich, at UCFS. And that was the reason why we didn't recommend funding in that area of UCFS's request. Adult day services, a very limited, very, very limited number of Groton residents, averaging 4, receive those services. And again, it was not felt that this was something that was essential in the grand scheme of things for us to be funding. I certainly understand where you're coming from on wanting to have these services, but we had to make some tough decisions as to what we felt were the priorities as far as funding for the town.
Sexual assault.
Sexual assault, as I've mentioned, that was because we have on our committee, by the way, Steve Sinagra from the Groton Town Police, Mark Berry from Parks and Rec, Betty Ann Ryder from the library, myself, and John Reiner from planning. When it came to the Sexual Assault Crisis Center, I remember asking Steve Sinagra, where do the police refer people that they have in a situation where there's been a sexual assault? And by and large, it was to the Safe Futures in New London, which is much more locally based than the other program, which is based out of Willimantic. Groton Community Meals did not submit an application for funding. Eastern Connecticut Symphony, we felt, and we've said this for many years now, that it's never clear. This is a concert that's held jointly with New London, and to the best of our knowledge, New London, the city of New London, is not contributing towards it. So we felt it wasn't justified that Groton spend the $5,000 on a joint venture with New London if we didn't know what New London was contributing, if anything. And the Noank Mystic Band, I don't think they did not provide an application for funding.
So I've just been told there's a member from the Symphony here, the Eastern Symphony. Is that true? There's a representative? Could you please come forward and just maybe talk a little bit about what that funding does? Sure. Thank you. Where do you want me? Right up here is fine. And just say your name, because I apologize.
My name is Caleb Bailey. I'm the Executive Director of the Eastern Connecticut Symphony Orchestra. Thank you for having us here and for asking questions of clarification. This year, actually, the application is slightly different than in years past. So we had been working on a joint municipality concert in the past, a sponsorship of a concert. But this year, we actually are using the funds to fund one of our education concerts. So this is not actually a joint municipality project. We do get funding if you, does everyone have the budget? So if you look at the budget for this particular project, it's actually mostly grant funded. And last year, the Groton Public Schools were not able to participate when they had normally. So typically we have about 800 students from Groton, grades 3 through 5, come to the Gard Arts Center, and there's a special education concert just for them that's called the Young People's Concerts. And it costs basically $5 per student, and that funds only a small portion of what it costs to put on the concert. So we find grant funds for some of the New London schools. It's not actually from the city of New London. They're from like the Shea Trust, Bowdoin Wine, Palmer is a supporter of ours as well, so they help to fund that program. So you can see all of the different, like the Community Foundation, for instance, all the places that we've applied for funding. And because the Groton schools were not able to allocate any money for field trips last year, we thought to change our application from sponsoring a general concert to underwriting the attendance of the Groton students so that it's actually built into the budget and the teachers can plan on it. And especially with this project, it's actually a joint concert with Carnegie Hall. They have a whole program that's a year-long curriculum. So students who are going to participate in this program, if the funding allows, there's recorder training, they come, they sing, and they dance. It's more interactive than just going and sitting and listening to a concert.
Thank you. Representative Monahan?
Well, thank you, Madam Moderator. I was just going to say that it doesn't look to me like we're cutting substantially. The zeros were not funded last year. I mean, so it's not like it seems to be in line with what we did last year, cutting a little bit. So it's not as alarming as I say. I'll also say that I do a lot of work and with Safe Futures, and I must say I've never heard of the Sexual Assault Crisis Center of Eastern Connecticut, and I was reading the back. I was sort of surprised to hear that there are 70 people from Groton the last fiscal year that were serviced by them. I mean, that seems surprising to me, but I can support, and the beauty of the RTM is even Representative Katowski can find in her heart to support the Symphony. So I'm going to support the 68,657.
Representative Marshall?
I'd like to make a motion to move the question.
All right. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed?
Keep your hands up until I call your name, please. Monahan, Frickman, Mello Miller, Bordelon, Hanscom, Katowski, Chase, Newsom. Gotcha.
Frickman and Monahan?
I got them.
How many in favor?
8. Any abstentions?
Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Gustafson.
24 in favor, 8, 8 in favor, 24
What?
opposed, 8 in favor of moving the question. Wait a minute. 24 in favor, 8 opposed, 1 abstention.
Okay, I think that, does that pass?
Yeah, we have 33 because Representative, the
that
questions
fails.
moved. Yeah, you needed 22.
Okay, so that motion passes. 24 in favor, 8 opposed, 1 abstention.
Yeah, we have 33 here. Because
We have 33. So we have a motion on the floor for $68,657 for, let's see, service agencies, kind of a bunch of them, 1054-5. All in favor, please? Yes? Represent. We did have the question called, so I think you're out of order.
She's calling a point of order, Madam Moderator.
Okay.
My point of order
I didn't hear
is,
that part.
how are we going to increase?
That was the town council number. We're not increasing. This is fine. The RTM committee lowered it. We're skookum that way. All right, thank you. So we have a number on the floor, $68,657. Please, all in favor, please raise your hand.
Yeah, let me do a roll call, please. Please, may we do a roll call since it's that close?
Okay, roll call vote.
Thank you.
The town clerk just prefers that.
Say yes, no, or abstain? Oh. Adams?
No.
Bailey?
Say again?
Yes, no, or abstain on the motion?
68,000. No.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bordelon?
Abstaining.
Casper?
Yes.
Chase?
Abstain.
Gustafson?
Yes.
Frickman?
Yes.
Katowski?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Did you do Hanscom?
Nope. Hanscom? Oop.
No.
Massett?
Abstain.
Okay. McDermott?
Yes.
Melendez?
Yes.
Mello Miller? Merritt?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Newsom?
No.
Oliver?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Quinn? Richards?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Stanford? Irma Streeter?
Yes.
Jim Streeter?
Abstain.
Strode?
No.
Washington? Wells?
Yes.
Whitehouse?
Yes.
Whitney?
Yes.
Eben?
Yes.
Let me make sure I'm right, 22. Yep, 22 in favor, 4 opposed, 7 abstentions.
Okay, so that motion passes, 22 in favor, 4 opposed, 7 abstentions.
It equals 33.
Thank you. So I think the next one is 1054-7, marine sewage disposal.
Cost Center 1054-7 Marine Sewage Disposal. A motion was made by Rep. McDermott for $19,980, seconded by Rep. Oliver. Discussion. The committee was joined by Pete Chappelle of Pete's Marine Services. Rep. McDermott noted that the water quality seems to have improved over the years, but is curious if there's water quality testing data to back that up. Voting in favor of the $19,980 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. I move the number.
Is there a second?
Second.
What's the number?
19,980.
Casper seconded? Casper.
So we have a number on the floor, 19,980 for marine sewage disposal, account 10547. Just FYI, if you want to go to Appendix A, page 83, you can find out more about it. Is there any discussion or questions? Representative Marshall?
Mr. Chapman is here.
And Mr. Chapman is here? Oh, thank you.
This is just a quick question. The item on page 83 says it was received January 2017. Is this number still good for FY19?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Bordelon?
I just want to say I'm in full support of this. I feel if we do not provide the service, people will dump it in the river, and then we'll have a whole nother problem here. I'm in full support. I think they provide a great service, and once again, economic development and TIF. You want to bring people in. That's an important service to have.
I'd like to ask some questions. So on the Mystic River, that includes Stonington as well as Groton?
We don't do Stonington Harbor.
So I'm talking about the Mystic River.
The Mystic
Half of
River,
it
yes,
is
yes.
Stonington, right?
Yes, yes.
And how much does Stonington pay for this service?
We have gotten some in the past from these, they have to pay for their moorings, and the Harbor Commission has donated some in the past.
How much money?
The last time it was $1,800.
How many boats that you pump out are from Stonington versus Groton?
The majority comes from the Groton side.
Can you give us some numbers, please?
I don't have the difference. We took 160,000 gallons out of the Mystic River. But I don't have the breakdown of how much on the Stonington side and how much on the Groton side.
So you have, what's a ballpark of the number of boats that you service?
There's 2 large marinas on the Stonington side, and there's 6 or 7 large marinas on the Mystic side in Groton, because you got Thames River too. So as far as boats, I don't have an exact number of how many boats there are.
Okay.
We do it all by gallons.
Okay, so you don't know how many boats you service. So I know like in where I live at the Pine Island Marina, they have their own pump out. None of those marinas
We
have
service-
their own pump outs?
We service Pine Island Marina. Pine Island Marina does not have its own pump out. We service Pine Island Marina.
They used to have a pump out, okay.
Some marinas do
Pine
have,
Island used to have one. I was on the
some
private
marinas
one.
do have a pump out service, which is very similar to it's state funded. And they're on the Mystic River. There's one on the in the Thames River. There's 3 or 4 in the Mystic River that are stationary pump stations.
Yeah, this is a stationary one
Yeah.
at the Pine Island Marina. You're not familiar with that?
I am not familiar with that.
Okay. All right.
Since they redid their docks, is it there?
I don't know, it was there when I was on the Harbor Management Commission in the city. And that was quite a while ago. I wouldn't think it would disappear.
Because usually if there is a station, we know about it because we're allowed to discharge our boats there. Like at Spicer's has one, we're allowed to discharge there.
Yes, Spicer's, this was Spicer's.
Well, it's no longer under
Right.
Spicer management, but Spicer's in Noank has one that we're allowed to use. Noank Shipyard, Noank Village, Mystic Shipyard East, Mystic Shipyard West, and we're allowed to discharge there. But as far as I know, the only one in Pine Island Bay is Shinnecosta Yacht Club.
Thank you. Representative McDermott?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This didn't come up in committee as far as Stonington's contribution. At least I don't recall covering it. Which of the marinas specifically in Stonington that we take care of and Stonington doesn't pay for at all?
We do Brewers.
The one on Mason's Island also?
Mystic River Marina.
Yeah.
Mystic Shipyard East, and Seaport Marine.
So those are big marinas.
They're larger marinas, but Spicer's is by far the largest marina that we do. And then you
Yeah.
have Noank Village, Mystic Shipyard West, Fort Rachel.
Well, that's Groton,
Right.
because I live right next to it. Well, what's the reason that they give for not contributing to this?
It's been very difficult. I've been working very hard. I mean, when I took the program over, they weren't contributing anything. And it's very hard to get in and knock on their door. Years ago, Groton used to run this program. And I think that part of the town managers, the old town manager's reasoning was by subbing it out, let somebody else do it and support it, because it's a 25%. So instead of losing 25%, we're only reimbursed 75%. And then you have to go out and raise the other 25% of your budget. So the town was eating the whole 25%. So by subbing it out, and with what you guys donate, is what Groton donates is 10%, about 10% of that 25%. Not quite 10%. It's a little less than 10%.
Well, I would suggest that the town manager get involved in a little bit. They should at least put up something beyond $1,800, I think, for what we do for them. But we need the service. I mean, I live on that water, and I can tell you it's a far cry today from what it was several years ago. So
we're going to try to get some more people involved with Stonington and try to get me some help to get in their doors and get in their budget with Stonington. We've been working, but this year that's a big focus to get in there and really knock on it. And Fisher's Island donates. Fisher's Island donates to us too.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, Fisher's
Really?
Island. Fisher's Island gives us a good amount of money.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
So you're not allowed to charge people for pumping out there? It's against,
State of Connecticut, about 6 years ago, they stopped charging $5 per pump out. And when they stopped charging, the amount of people that use the service increased 3 times the amount. They started taking 3 times the amount of sewage out when they stopped charging.
all right, are there any other questions, discussion? I would tend to agree this is something that seems inequitable at some basic level.
Is it possible that next year that you can bring some data and show us, keep track of how much you're pumping from Stonington and Groton side, so that way we have something to kind of present to see, so that way when you present to Stonington, maybe you could say, look, this is the numbers, this is what I'm getting, that way we can kind of have.
I can
something
try to
going.
do that. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to remember the people, the kids that are running the boat are seasonal employees,
Yeah.
and we don't have a boat that's designated to Stonington or designated to Groton. So, I mean, we can try, when they do I wouldn't be able to give you, it's not going to be a real number. I can only give you numbers from online reservations, because I have where their boats
Right.
are, and I know that we pump those boats
That,
out.
that would be a starting point.
Right,
To-
but if they call on the radio, it's going to be really, I mean, they write it down,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, but if you
a
can bring
real
any-
number would be the ones that I get by an email, and that's
Yeah.
only going to be a small percentage of it.
Right, anything you can bring extra would be helpful.
Okay.
Representative Bailey?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I recommend that logging pump outs is probably recommendable.
We do log pump outs.
That should help with the last question.
As long as they write down if the boat was, and what, we logged the boat that we pumped out and how many gallons we took off it. But there's nothing in, when they write it down, they don't say that it was at Brewers, or they don't really say. So, I mean, we can change that and try to get them to say.
That would be pretty easy. I
Well.
would recommend that. Thank you very much.
Representative Casper?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And what's the total budget for your operation?
This year's 198,000.
Right, so this is only a small part of that. Thank you.
The number that we ask for is less than 1% of what the marinas pay in property tax, what the Groton marinas pay in property tax to Groton. Way less than 1%.
All right, any other questions? Comments? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. We have $19,980 on the floor for account 10547, and this is marine sewage disposal. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Opposed? Any abstentions? I'm abstaining, by the way.
So you have 32 in favor, 0 opposed.
That motion passes 32 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Call center 10548, Mystic River Ambulance. A motion was made for $25,000 by Rep. McDermott, second by Rep. Newsom. Discussion, Michael Gilman Jr. of Mystic River Ambulance answered a few questions regarding their new billing location and its certificate of occupancy. Voting in favor of the $25,000 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, and Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. Madam Moderator, I move the number.
All right, is there a second for 25,000? Second. Thank you. So we have 25,000 on the floor for Mystic River Ambulance, account 10548. Is there any questions or discussion? Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I saw the requested amount was 50,000 and manager approved 25, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And what services are we going to be losing with that?
We dedicate the money from both towns to an ambulance account to purchase new ambulances.
Could you just state your name? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Michael Gilman. I'm the president of Mystic River Ambulance.
So you're not losing significant services by that cut, is what you're saying?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Burt, would you like to comment?
Just to point out, that's a level, we did the same amount the last couple of years, so just to point that out.
Any other questions? Representative Marshall?
Apologies for asking, follow-up the same question. So the money that has been put aside is being put aside for a future large expenditure?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and the money, the money that's been saved, when's the last time we used this money in this account?
We remounted an ambulance. And that's where we actually bought a chassis, and you take the box off and you put it on a new chassis. We did that 2 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing no other hands, we have a motion on the floor for $25,000, Mystic River Ambulance account 10548. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Gilman. Next is Mystic Noank Library. Yes.
Cost Center 10549, Mystic Noank Library. A motion of $100,000 was made by Rep. Newsom, second by Rep. Hanscom. Discussion, the committee was joined by Christine Johnson, Director of Mystic Noank Library. She explained the funding of $100,000 would probably require the library to close at least 1 day per week. Rep. Newsom and Rep. Hanscom feel that the $100,000 is sufficient. Rep. Hanson notes that the library self-funds over 60% of their budget through a robust amount of donations and grants. Perhaps further seek out additional grants to cover the remaining $25,000. Voting in favor of the $100,000 was Rep. Hanscom and Newsom. Opposed, Rep. McDermott, Oliver, and Strode. Abstaining, none. The motion failed. A second motion was made for $125,000 by Rep. McDermott, second by Rep. Oliver. Discussion, Rep. McDermott, Strode, and Oliver feel that it would be detrimental to area residents if we close the Mystic Noank Library 1 day a week. Voting in favor of $125,000 was Rep. McDermott, Oliver, and Strode. Opposed was Rep. Hanscom and Newsom. Abstaining, none. The committee recommended raising to $125,000. There was missed oversight on my part as the committee chair, and after consulting the town clerk, we are going to move the number of $100,000 since we went above the town manager's or the town council's approved number.
Over the town council. There we go. So we have a motion. Did it get seconded?
No, I haven't seen a second.
Is there a second for 100? Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded for $100,000 for the Mystic Noank Library, account 10449. Is there any questions or discussion? Representative McDermott?
I'd like an explanation again of what happened.
So we approved that the number that was the town council had 100, or that was approved by the town council was $100,000, and then we went above the $125,000 without me realizing that.
We can't do that in committee?
We can't raise the amount.
You can do it in committee. It's just a recommendation, but it can't be voted on by this body.
Oh, no, I understand that, but
Okay.
can't we bring the $125,000 to the body and let them make a judgment?
We're bound by the charter.
Okay.
Representative Massett?
Just a question for the executive director. Do you have any plans to do any outreach in the rest of the community and invite folks from all parts of the town to sit on your board?
We've never not provided outreach or not invited people from the rest of the town to sit on our board. We actually put a public notice up in the library and out in all of our publicity asking people to volunteer for the board. We turn over the board every 3 years, and we have people that just step up in the community and decide to volunteer. It's a volunteer board, so we welcome anyone from Groton. We try to do it half and half because we serve both towns. We try to have half from Stonington, half from Groton, but we don't have any restrictions on where in Groton you live. That's fine. I mean, all of our programs, everything's open to basically to the entire state. We're a public library, so we're required to serve the entire state. So we're certainly not discriminating against either town or any section of town.
Representative Mello Miller? No, you're good. Anyone else? Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just looking, as I know we're not talking about Bill Memorial, but they seem to request a lot lower number. So I'm just curious, how you're getting your funding.
We get about 1/3 of our funding from the combined between the two municipalities and the state, and the other 2/3 we provide ourselves. 1/3 of that is through annual fundraising and grants. The other 1/3 is based on our investment funds, which we have restrictions on how much we can take out each year. So for every dollar that we get, we put back $2.
Thank you.
Representative Adams?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Could you please tell us how much Stonington contributes?
Sure. 86,500, and they represent about 40% of our circulation. We don't really count program attendance, like where people come from. We just count a number, but we do count circulation statistics.
Thank you.
Representative Katowski?
I believe that several RTMs ago, it was suggested to the Mystic Noank Library that they start to try to wean themselves off of the Groton taxpayers to these large amounts, and I believe that our mayor also stated that this year. If all was equitable, then the Mystic Noank Library would also be receiving $23,000. So just towards the future, if you could just bear in mind that we had an 8.7% tax increase last year. This year we're looking at another hefty tax increase, and there is quite a large endowment for that library. If you could just, towards the future, just not try to raise your request every year. Thank you.
I could speak to that. I mean, we do have about $6 million in funds. If we were to go through that, we'd be open for 6 years more. We've been open 125 years, and we're hoping to stay open another 125 years, and my board is very cognizant of the need to self-fund. That's why we do provide 2/3 of our budget. And we do have about 9 times as much circulation as the Bill Memorial, so if all things were even, we'd be getting 9 times as much from the town of Groton.
Representative Richards?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to say Mystic Noank Library, I think, is an extremely valuable resource for Groton and certainly for Mystic as a place that brings in a lot of people to our area. And I know when I go to a town and I travel, one of the first things I look for is the nearest public library, especially in their place to go with my kids if it's rainy, and we do things like that. And I know people do that when they come here and visit our town. And I know there have been a lot more programs, newer programs, and a lot of things that are of great interest to the public there. So thank you for that. I'll be supporting the 100,000.
Representative Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to speak as a weekly visitor to the Mystic Noank Library. My children both participate in the programs there. My son just finished the engineering program, which was new this year, and was a huge asset to the children of this community. They brought in engineers to teach them. It was an amazing experience for him and really opened his eyes. And my daughter visits Mido the cat every single week, if not more. And I want to say that the library has very innovative fundraising programs. I encourage everyone to attend the June fair. There are consistently fundraising efforts. So I do believe that the library is aggressive in its fundraising efforts. It provides a great value to the community, and I wish we could support a larger number.
So has anyone wishing to speak who hasn't spoken yet? I'll take Representative McDermott.
Thank you. The library's in my district at 6, and I have people tell me all the time that they want to support this library tonight. That's number one. Number two, the library, GPL, we took 2.5% away from them. We took nearly 50% away from this particular request. Number three, we've got this library's 2 blocks away from downtown Mystic. It's got a little sign down there that points people up to the library from the main tourist district in the state of Connecticut. We see people come up there all the time and do that, and I've had requests for that myself. We've got the largest or most expensive hotel in Mystic sitting right across the street from the library, as far as I'm aware. I'd certainly like to see us support this library. I think it's a treasure. And I'd like to move another number, 125,000, and I understand.
We cannot take that. The town council and the town manager had $100,000, and we are bound by the charter and cannot go above that.
That's right. I'm sorry, I forgot.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to clarify.
All right, just for the 100,000, then I'll speak to that. Thank you.
Representative Massett?
Never mind.
All right. Anyone else? Representative
I also support this 100,000. I'd also like to move 125, but we can't. But I live close enough that I can hear the boats in New London Harbor, but I carry a Mystic Noank library card. Because when I first moved here, it was the first library that really caught my attention with its programs. And just because it's a very engaging part of our community. And someone once asked me why we need 3 libraries in Groton. And I said, because we don't have 4. You know, we're a town of 41,000 people. And as the representative said, that having a library like that, you know, across the street from Spicer Mansion, and really on par with Spicer Mansion as libraries go, is a great a great resource of the town, and again, makes us look good. So, you know, $100,000 is a bargain for what we get, and I believe, and same for the, so I don't need to speak on the next one, same for the Bill Library as well, that I think we get a tremendous value for a relatively small amount of money to spend to support these libraries. Thank you.
Anyone else would wish to speak? No? Seeing no other hands raised, I think we're ready for a vote on Mystic Noank Library, account 10549, $100,000. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Or abstentions? Okay. That carries unanimously, if I'm reading everyone's hands properly.
Well, we thank you very much, and I hope you'll come to the library and join the board. We're always looking for new trustees, so feel free to contact me.
All right. And can we do the Bill Memorial? Yeah. I think we're going to do Bill Memorial, and then I think Representative Oliver was requesting were you wanting a break or no?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Let's go with Bill Memorial.
Cost Center 10549A, Bill Memorial Library. A motion of $23,000 was made by Rep. Hanscom, seconded by Rep. Newsom. Discussion, Wendy Connell, Director of the Bill Memorial Library, provided an update on the robust program for all ages. The original request was for $23,000. The town manager brought this down to $18,700. The town council then raised the account back to $23,000 to prevent any staff layoffs. Voting in favor of the $23,000 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, and Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. Madam Moderator, I move the number.
Second.
All right. We have a number on the floor, $23,000 for the Bill Memorial Library, account 10549A. Is there any questions or discussion? Representative Bailey?
I'd like to move another number.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'd like to move another number, 18,700.
Okay. Is there a second? Is that Adams? Thank you. All right, we have a second number on the floor, 18,700. Representative Bordelon?
We just gave $100,000 to the Mystic one. We got to support the 23. I live over on that side of town, and you know, to get to the Mystic Library is not very convenient. And sometimes coming to the one over here in the middle of town is not convenient when last-minute projects come up. I think that once again, that the Bill Memorial Library is a treasure. It's located in a historic area. It has beautiful buildings. It's part of you know, once again, economic development. It's a great area for that. You know, the Groton banks. Hopefully we sell that school. It'll be even a better asset over there. I'm in full support, and I wish I could move that number higher. I feel like they're actually missing out on more funding that they should be getting, actually. Thank you.
Representative Marshall?
Just had a quick question about how where does the money go that's requested by the town of Groton? So there's a town of Groton grant section. That's not the same thing as this fund, is it? The funds being requested?
It is.
Okay.
And it just goes to our general budget.
Okay, so the original number was 23, and then for estimating purposes, you just had 20 in here on page 100.
That's what we got last year.
Okay, that's last year. Okay.
Could you just state your name to introduce
I'm sorry,
yourself?
I'm Wendy Connell. I'm the director of Bill Memorial Library.
Thank you. And I had one other. It was in the write-up. It said there was improvements that were required to the building. Are any of those improvements going to be happening this year? Like things that need to be fixed, significant things?
We hope so. We're going for a Neighborhood Assistance Act grant, which the town is helping us with. It's a state grant, or it's basically like a tax rebate program, and Groton Utilities is partnering with us on that, and that will go toward upgrading and replacing our HVAC system.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Bauer?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, I need to make a disclosure. I read for a nursery school through the help with the library. And aside from that, before I started doing that, I used that library a lot. The people are very, very helpful. The books are good. And I'm a strong believer in libraries. Libraries are for all kinds of reasons, including reading to children who are 2 years old and don't quite sit still. And I'm very much in favor of the $23,000. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your service, too. Any other, Representative Whitehouse?
For the difference in the $4,300, what will we lose?
Well, we would probably lose our technology upgrades that we try to do every year to keep them as up to date as possible for the public, and we would also lose some staff hours.
And that technology, that's one of the major reasons people come to a library in 2018, correct?
Absolutely. So it is a big priority for us to keep that as up to date as we possibly can, given our budget.
What kind of things do people use that technology for?
Well, internet, I would say primarily. We've scanning projects that we do. We teach coding to young adults.
So things like job applications and resumes and
Yes.
research for people
Yes.
who might not have a computer at home or
Correct.
don't have the technology available to them?
Yes.
That seems like a lot for $4,300. So I would certainly support the $23,000. As I said before, I haven't. Although I plan to go to an event on Saturday, I have not been to the Bill for quite some time. But is a fantastic resource for the town. And again, being a town that has 3 libraries, it makes us. It's a prestige factor. It's something I'm proud of to live in a town that has 3 great libraries, and I think that we need to fund them properly. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Representative Whitney?
Just quickly, I support the higher number of 23,000, and just want to note that you mentioned that in the report that usage has gone up by 18% in the last year.
Yes.
So it seems like we should support that successful library.
All right, I think we have a number on the floor, and I see no more hands. 18,700 for account 10549A, and that is the Bill Memorial Library. All in favor, please raise your hand. All in favor, all opposed? Any abstentions? That's, motion fails, 3 in favor, 30 opposed, no abstentions. So we have another number on the floor, 23,000. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes, 32 in favor, 1 opposed, no abstentions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going back to the top of the list
Yeah.
that was provided. Account number 1046, Planning and Development Services on page 135. A motion of $1,323,531 was made by Rep. McDermott, second by Rep. Strode. Discussion. The committee was joined by Paige Bronk, Economic and Community Development Manager, Kevin Quinn, Manager of Inspection Services, and John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development Services. They provided an overview of their work to bring new businesses and residents to the town of Groton, including new promotional materials, website signage, etc. Voting in favor of the $1,323,531 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Oliver, and Strode. None opposing, none abstaining. Madam Moderator, I move the number of $1,323,531.
That was seconded? Thank you, Representative Monahan. So we have a number on the floor for account 1046, Planning and Development Services, $1,323,531. And is there any discussion or, I see Representative Katowski, so.
Thank you. I'd like to move another number.
Okay.
$1,274,531.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
$1,274,531.
Thank you.
Second.
So we have another number on the floor, $1,274,531. Would you like to speak to that motion?
Yes, thank you. This is a very large account and was increased this year. I know that the Planning Department is working on many projects that hopefully will reduce the tax burden for the residents of Groton and not just create more government sprawl. I really hope for the sake of the town that the department is successful, but I just don't think that the taxpayers can afford all of it at this time. For example, in the last 4 years, planning has spent $460,699 on consultants, not including the $200,000 that was spent on the zoning audit. That is getting near $500,000, taxpayer dollars. Along with many other people, I have been very frustrated with the Groton culture of consultants. I understand that the town manager has heard this concern, and hopefully moving forward there will be less consultants used. Also, since 2015, we have spent $238,000 on rewriting the zoning regs. I understand that the process is difficult, but the account of the process that the Director of Planning gave to me seemed ridiculous. For each section, our process has been to identify the inconsistencies, interpretation issues, and the number of variances requested. That information is given to the consultant, who then drafts changes. The draft is reviewed by staff before being forwarded to the Zoning Commission. The Commission carefully reviews the draft and always has more changes to be made. It goes back to the consultant and the staff. So that just seems like it's not efficient. While all of the planning projects are interesting and hopeful for the town, I just don't see any positive, measurable outcome for the taxpayers from all the money that has been given to the planning department over the last several years. Of course, I know I cannot tell the planning department how to spend the taxpayers' money, but I would like to reduce this account by $50,000, and I would like to suggest that they make the reduction in consultant fees. Thank you.
Representative Monahan? Oh, Representative Marshall, did you want to? Representative Monahan?
I support the larger number. I've been impressed with Mr. Reiner's attack on this subject, and this is an area where it's penny wise and pound foolish to cut. We're trying to increase attention to our town, and it seems to me that we will be foolish if we don't spend money to develop our tax base.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm in support of the large number. I think this is long overdue. I think the only holdup in this town is the taxpayers themselves that are constantly fighting anything that is going to increase or bring change into our area, into our town. a lot of the money that's been allocated and planning, people wanted, and then proposals come up and people seem to not want change. So I feel that our only hurdle here in this town is the town itself and the taxpayers themselves. We have to come up with a plan. We have to move into the 21st century here, and we need to bring in businesses that can help our tax base. That's the only way we're going to move forward. That's the only way that we are going to be marketable to the younger generation that want TIF communities where they can live and work. People don't want, a lot of the younger generation, they don't want 5 acres of land, 2 acres of land. They want a condo in a nice area they can walk and get a cup of coffee in the morning and a beer in the evening, or walk to the library. We have to bring our town up to code and specifications to meet the ever-changing 21st century and where the direction of our youth are today. I'm impressed with the website that they're utilizing to advertise. I'm hoping that with the new webpage for the town that we use some of those same graphics. I hope that the under this the section where you talk about advertising as well. I hope we use the planning in the TIF program to advertise our schools in that section as well in your portfolios that you guys hand out. So I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm in full support.
Mr. Burt, did you want to reply?
Yes, excuse me, my cold's still not quite all the way gone, but my voice is out a little bit. I don't know. If you look at the original request in the budget, it was for about, under the professional services, it was for about 100,000 more. That was cut. I worked with John and staff to cut that back to the bare minimum, and part of it was not only my general distaste of consultants, sometimes they're a necessary evil, but also because they're got so many projects going on. These were going to be new projects. We have to finish up what we're doing and then take on more projects. But in terms of what's remaining for that 50,000, it's stuff like the bulk of it. 30,000's for marketing the excess properties, appraisals, all the different things. It's to move these excess properties we have, which is part of our economic development strategy. It's maintaining the new economic development website. So it's all for very specific things that are needed to finish up what we're doing currently.
And if I may, John Ryder, Director of Planning and Development, so none of those are for our typical consulting studies. It might be an appraisal, it might be a survey of a property. That's what's in our budget. We don't have a $50,000 line item for consultants for fiscal year 19.
Representative Newsom?
No, thank you, Madam I was just going to ask if the director could respond to Representative Katowski's statement. That's all.
Representative Marshall?
I have a question about the line item for long-range planning. It's not in the budget, I'll be brief, but what was going to be accomplished with that money that never made it here? Item
10466?
Yeah, 10466. So you're getting something, but you're not getting...
So we had identified a number of projects over the course of the past year. We had heard from the council and from others the need for looking at more sustainability, for coastal access, for blue trails, looking at sea level rise. We had put projects in the budget to identify those. I think I actually had mentioned this to the town council at our presentation, and I'll mention it to the RTM now. Those are things that we should do at some point in time. We don't need to do them now. That's why when we were looking to bring the budget down this year, we were able to identify those as things that we could cut, that we could defer for a year or two, but at some point in time, we will want to analyze those.
Okay, and I don't know if it was asked directly, but maybe it was touched on. What would be cut or not get done with the $50,000 reduction? Like, what would be one of the first things that gets cut?
That would probably be a staff cut, and that might end up impacting our economic development efforts.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Representative Whitehouse?
So a few different times this month I've said, we need to do this because this is for economic development. Well, this is economic development, so I certainly support the higher number. But one point I want to make about consultants is there anyone on the staff who is experienced at making, developing new websites?
No.
Okay. And if you'd said yes, I would have had a very serious question about why. Is there anyone on the staff who's experienced redoing entire zoning structures?
I've had a fair amount of work in it, but I can't dedicate all of my time to that. And, you know, one of the things that, when I utilize consultants, they're temporary staff. We hire them for a short period of time. They work on a project. They're highly accountable, and when the project's done, they go bye-bye, and then we don't have them anymore.
And so we also wouldn't be paying their benefits and their retirement benefits and
exactly.
and all that, so we can use them for what we need them for. And also just a comment about the planning team. So as liaison to the Economic Development Commission, I've only been working with the commission for a couple of months, but I've been very impressed by what I've seen. And I think a couple times I've said, are you sure this is a government operation? Because they keep doing things that make sense and have a plan, and is cohesive and efficient. And you know, it doesn't look like government at all. It's the weirdest thing. But they assure me that they are government. But what I see working closely with Economic Development Commission is that there really is a solid plan to move Groton forward, because you know, we have a town, especially over in my area, you know, downtown, which I like our downtown, and I think it was a fantastic downtown in 1967. But a little bit has changed in the fashion of what suburbs look like. And as Representative Bordelon said, you know, we need modern mixed-use developments, and I believe that we already have some mixed-use developments that have come online in the downtown area. Is that correct?
There are some plazas that have been redone. Aldi's Plaza is a nice example. We do have areas where there's residential close by. I mean, you have a mix of uses right now in the downtown. It needs a lot of investment, a lot of work, and that's what we're trying to do with a lot of our initiatives, especially the tax increment financing program.
All right. Thank you very much.
I had a question about the, on page 138, what is regular part-time? There was no request, and then 38,953 was put in. Mr. Burt, what is that for?
I can answer that.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
So
Reiner.
right now, we have an office assistant that is a part-time position. That is the position for economic development. The workload and the expectations of everyone for economic development have substantially increased. This past year, we had proposed to making that position full-time in the budget. It's something that the number that the $1,323,531 would allow that position to be full-time. This year, that position's a 20-hour-a-week position right now. This year, due to, it took us longer to fill a couple of vacant positions this year, so utilizing salary savings, we were able to work and give that position an extra 10 hours a week for economic development functions. It has made a humongous difference, but there's still a shortage in the need for that administrative support. Hence why we're asking to have that position be a full-time position, and that's what the town council had voted in favor
So
of.
this 38 would be added to the 7,000 and become a full-time FTE?
Yeah, so the number would be moved around, so it would be put into the regular full-time pay plus the $10,000 over what was the manager's budget.
So
the 38 would go up to about 48,900, and that number would be put into the full-time, and there would be 0 in regular part-time.
okay, so an office assistant makes almost $50,000? Is that an entry level?
No.
I'm having a salary envy here. Sorry. Okay. Any other questions? Representative Marshall?
The number could be around $45,000. I don't have the exact number of what that position makes right off the top of my head.
So is there an updated, granted these books were printed a couple weeks ago, but is there an updated version that reflects this?
Well, Dawn has been sending out this, and you can see that if you look at this matrix, that under 1046, the town council, added in roughly for $7,000 something. I
understand that. The fact that this item, this sub-account for regular part-time, did that also officially get changed by the town council?
No, they don't. That would be something that happens after the fact. We don't really get to.
No, I understand. I just was trying to, it seems like we had a plan, and if this book was printed, then we changed the plan in a matter of weeks.
So the plan for that increase and the direction from the town council was to increase the budget to the number, the $1,323,531. 31 to make that position full-time.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Rogers, sorry.
Thank you. I wanted to speak on behalf of my husband's actually a developer in the area. He's developing 19 units right now on Route 1 in a currently vacant piece of land. You're probably familiar with it. They're calling it Groton Village. And I will just say that staffing this department is essential to economic development and to increasing our tax base in Groton. It is much harder for him to do his job when he does not have the resources in this department to work with. And he has benefited from our Economic Development Commission. They have worked with him on this project, and he has received some grants for this project. He is much more likely to do another project like this in Groton. I think this is a perfect example, as you said, being your pounds and your pennies might be mixed up here. We need to invest and bring more developers in and encourage more development in the area by fully funding. Thank you.
All right, and Representative Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I recommend that the second number, and the reason being is we've already spent quite a bit of money, probably more than we could ever imagine. $1 million for the RF radio communications for the police department, among other things. And I realize economic development is really important, but the rest of this town, or actually the rest of Groton, has to be able to get up in step with the possibilities of trying to make the future happen. And sometimes just slowing down to allow a little bit to commensurate, things might just come to us without having to push things aggressively forward. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other hands in the air, I think we're nearing the time for a vote. So we have an amended number on the floor, $1,274,531, account 1046, Planning and Development Services. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that motion fails. 2 in favor, 31 opposed, no abstentions. So we have another number on the floor, $1,323,531. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. 31 in favor, 2 opposed, no abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So you want to do Groton Library?
Yep. Count number 1063, Groton Public Library, page 148. A motion of $1,663,646 was motion by Rep. Newsom, seconded by Rep. Hanscom. Discussion, Betty Ann Ryder, Director of Groton Public Library, provided a brief overview of the service provided. Voting in favor of the $1,663,646 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. Madam Moderator, I move the number $1,663,646.
So we have a number on the floor for Groton Public Library, account 1063, $1,663,646. Was that seconded? Yes. Okay. Any questions or discussion? Representative Katowski?
Thank you. Thank you for answering my questions, but my question of how many people from Groton use the library was not answered. During the Town Council budget deliberations, we learned that 54% of the Mystic Noank Library patrons were from Groton, 100% of the Bill Library patrons are from Groton. So I am interested in that number. Everyone loves the library. I love the library. It's the best one in southeastern Connecticut. maybe even the world. But with 19 full-time employees and 25 part-time employees, the taxpayers cannot afford it at this level. It seems like it's now more of a community center. I appreciate that the town manager did reduce one vacant position, but I think it's time to scale back, and I'd like to move another number. $1,613,646.
Second.
Okay, we have a second number on the floor, 1,613,646. It's been seconded.
I know this isn't popular. I know the library is like a religion, but with an 8.7% tax increase last year and another big tax increase this year, I just thought maybe there was some room for some efficiencies and scaling back. Thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion? Representative Mello-Miller?
I just want to speak and say it's already been down almost $50,000 to lower it another 50 when there's already been a decrease in the budget. My kids use the library. I use the library. I love it. I also use the online, downloading it on my Kindle, and I love it. We've funded the other two libraries. This should be a no-brainer. We should just be able to, I don't know if we can do this, but I'd love to move the question. I think this is, no, we can't do that yet.
Accept it, sorry. We get to have 10 minutes of discussion, so.
Well, regardless, I'm in favor of the
Okay.
first number. Thank you.
I think that Representative Katowski had a question embedded in her statement, which was what percentage of the patronage is from Groton versus other places. And could you just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Betty M. Ryder, the library director. And I did receive some questions from Representative Katowski. And as I explained to her, I can't tell you how many people that use the library are from Groton. Over 200,000 people walk through our doors every year. And of course, it's a free and open and public building, and we don't ask where people are from. So I simply cannot answer that question. I can tell you that about 89,000 items were checked out to non-Groton residents out of about 300,000 items that are checked out. But that doesn't really answer the question. And I don't know how the other libraries can answer that question either, because, again, we're open and free to the public, so we don't check where you're from.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This is a no-brainer from the library. With us being a military community, a lot of people that come into the town, the first one they usually find, or what I was told, is the one that's right here next door. It also is, I know that this library supports a lot of homeschool children in our district, where they meet the tutors and are actually being taught there. It's open for the town to use for offices and businesses and things like that. Like I said, I understand we need to cut certain things, but once again, this library, just like the other two libraries, are just as important, and I would hate to see the funding cut. Because the realization is that this one is the center of all of Groton, and when we start talking cuts, or people have started talking cuts, they start talking Mystic and the city. So this one is our center hub, so we got to fund it. This is our main base. It's kind of irrelevant about how many, and I respect Mrs. Katowski, but how many people come through it. A lot of people use the library. I mean, it's a safe place to go. It has become like a rec center because the children have nowhere else to go, and if they're going to choose a library to hang out in, well, that's the kids I want. So I think it's great. It's in a great location where children from the communities, the two neighborhoods or three that are in the immediate area, they walk to this library, and I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Representative Washington?
I agree with Representative Borderline. I'm going to support the higher figure. When I was a young kid, I used to go to the library all the time. That was my hangout spot. You go there, you read, you talk to your friends. I mean, now we didn't have toys in the library. Now they have toys for the young kids. For my grandkids, they go to the library all the time, and they participate in the program. I mean, in the morning, people are outside waiting to get into the library. So that's a positive for us. So I'm not in support of cutting anything from any of the libraries. They're essential.
Representative Whitehouse?
So it says here that there's 202,000 visitors. Is that unique individuals or just bodies that pass through the door?
We have a counter, and so,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's just how
So-
many people come through the door
Okay, so it's not 202,000 unique, it's just 202,000 total.
through the course of the year.
Okay, because what I was going to ask is, you know, why does it need that much staff? And then I took that 202,000 and divided into, it's open 7 days a week, is that correct?
For most of the year,
Okay.
from September through April.
Okay, because if it was open, just quick math, every day, most of the day, that's about 70 people an hour passing through the library. So that makes a lot more sense as to why it needs that kind of staffing.
Right.
And it does seem like it seems like a good thing it's a community center, because we don't have a Groton Community Center per se, but we kind of do. It's called the Groton Public Library. That's where we have other than the ones that are here, a lot of our major community meetings. If we were to cut $50,000, how would that affect the services that you'd be able to provide?
As you look at the budget, you can see that most of the money is in personnel, and so I think it would be another staff member, which would probably mean fewer hours. We would probably have to close some hours because my budget in the last 10 years has gone down $250,000, and that has been pretty much all personnel. We have lost many, many, many positions over the last 10 years, and yet we're out doing far more outreach, many more programs, and doing far more than we ever did. And at this point, losing another person, I think we would have to reflect that in how long we were open and what we could offer.
Thank you.
Representative Marshall?
Thank you. I see approximately like about 10 grand for software maintenance fees, and that's was that, so what does that cover? Because I know that's like a 8 grand increase just from what was requested last year.
And that is because we have actually two budgets. We have this budget, and I guess right after this we'll be considering our Borrow at CT budget. That is money from the state that we receive for providing services to out-of-town residents. And we have traditionally paid out of that money all of the software maintenance fees for all of the things that have to do with public computing. And so this year, because of the uncertainty of the state budget, it looks like they are not, we weren't sure whether they were going to be supporting the Borrow at CT money anymore. So we had to move a lot of that into the regular budget. So these aren't really new charges, they're just things that we've moved over. And it maintains things like our self-checkout, our print management system. We just have a lot of
Now, did they
fees.
fund that? So now it's been settled.
This year, they funded it. I still have not heard whether it's included in the complete budget that was just finished. So.
Okay, so we moved, it seems like an equivalent amount of money over from Borrow It account 3310 to this one.
Right.
On the chance that it wouldn't get funded by the state. So if the state funds the Borrow It CT to the number that you had hoped, what would that money be put towards? Just as an example.
That money will stay in that account, and we would use it next year. It must be used for library purposes, so it will, it will be there to be used.
Okay, so that's 10 grand right there that could go towards maybe not avoiding cutting somebody if the other number were to get approved. But I guess I'm a little bit concerned that we don't know about the approval of the other money. And I know there's probably nothing we can do about it right now, but I feel like we should know that.
Well, we have the money that's in the Borrow at CT account, that we're asking for this year is in that account. I mean, we have that money.
But you had previously had about 26 grand. This is not on topic for this.
We used to count on having about $50,000 in that account. Now we can only count on having about 20. So we're just we're being careful that we can cover.
Representative Frickman? Okay. Anyone else? Representative Richards?
Thank you. I would just like to say that I support the larger number here. I really see the Groton Public Library as a major central hub of the town, and not just of the town, but I know people come from neighboring towns as well for programs, and I think it's well-deserved. Thank you.
All right, seeing no more hands raised, I think we're ready for a vote. We have two numbers, and we'll start with $1,613,646 for account 1063, and that's the Groton Public Library. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Any abstentions? So that's 2 in favor. So that was 2 in favor, 30 opposed, 1 abstention. So that motion fails. And we have another number on the floor, $1,663,646. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that motion passes 31 in favor, 2 opposed, no abstentions. All right, thank you. Yeah, do you want to take a break now, or do you want to do borrow at Connecticut and then take a break? Wait, I would like to take a break. Okay, let's take a break. I'm sorry. You'll have to wait. 10 minutes, please. 10 minutes. Take it away.
We have the CIPs.
Oh, CIPs,
Yeah.
You're right.
So CIP 7, technology, Q, library and GMTV servers replace and upgrade on page 231. A motion of $49,000 was made by Rep. Newsom, seconded by Rep. Oliver. Discussion, the Groton Public Library AV Director explained that our current servers are old and outdated, and in order to maintain our level of service, we need to upgrade an additional server. Voting in favor of the $49,000 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, and Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. Madam Moderator, move the number of $49,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded for $49,000 for account CIP 7Q, library and GMT servers replacement and upgrade. Are there any questions or discussion? Representative Katowski?
I'm not going to waste any more time moving numbers, but I'm just going to make a comment. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Is this a need or a want? Okay. This is the latest tech toys for one of our 2 TV stations in town. Do we need 2 TV stations in town? And this is a government-run, government-controlled TV station. Public access is not allowed, and all the content is controlled. Do we really need all this? I mean, this is just over the top, kind of a waste of money. I know no one thinks so except me, but if I could move a number and it would pass, I would move 0.
This is all very hypothetical, so we'll go to Representative McDermott.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I believe in the committee meeting, this was to replace what we already have. Isn't that correct? Because of longevity problems, et cetera? And to enhance, whatever we do?
The servers we have are at their end of their expected life, and so this is to, to replace something that we already have.
Yes, one server is 8 years old. The expectancy of life of the server is 8 years old. Our second server is 12 years old. It absolutely owes us 0. It is well past its life. It's already having some major issues. And so what we're looking to do is replace these 2 servers that we have with one server that's an IP-based server. So it's bringing us up into today's technology. When these servers first came out, they're very standardized, analog, standard definition. Now everything's moving toward HD and IP video. And so what that means is that we're not beholden to have to be connected to have everything connecting to it by a wire. It'll act through the internet. So for instance, just to get a signal from here to the library, it has to be a line, either fiber or coax line. We could actually map in an IP address, and it'll go right to that server. So basically, wherever we have IP ability, which is wherever you have Wi-Fi and internet, we'll be able to jump into it.
So that's a significant upgrade then, as well as
It is.
replacing the main function of the unit.
It is, and that's really where most of these units are going now. I mean, this is technology 12 years later.
Okay, thanks.
Representative Whitehouse?
This obviously seems like something we need, and at $50,000 for basically 10 years of service seems like a pretty good deal. And I think one of the most important things this does is deliver our meetings, this meeting right now, to the town. So while it is government controlled, we as representatives, we create the content. So I think the irony is that is Representative Katowski's words about how we don't need this service will be recorded on YouTube by this service. But more importantly, it's a lot of what's great about the RTM is that we're here to ask the questions for the residents about what's going on. Why are we spending this money? So someone could say, hey, why do we do this? Well, let me send you a YouTube link. Go to 45 minutes in, and it's discussed. That seems pretty important to have the technology to be able to do that and to cover all the meetings. So this server allows us to, of course, cover government meetings. And what else? What other services or what other programming goes through this equipment?
Basically, this is the heart and soul of GMTV. Everything runs through it. All the programming runs through it. We schedule everything you see on the channel, whether it's the programming, the slides, the video slides, the digital signage. That is all going through these servers. And so right now we also do a little bit of digital signage, like out here in the lobby, at the senior center, at the library. You'll see some of that. But it's very, very limited because of its standard definition. It's line-based, and it only has so many outputs without putting distribution amplifiers and having to run long wires. This new system will allow us to actually create more digital signage spots because it's IP-based. We will be able to run not just 3 or 4 schedules, we'll be able to run 30 schedules. So with a monitor and a HDMI IP-based or Wi-Fi receiver player that gets plugged into the side of the TV, we can send a schedule to that player and play, say we set up a signage in social services, we can target our content, which we already have with our digital signage, put all the social services programs that they already currently list on our channel and put them into their lobby and with maybe a few general town messages, but really focus on their clientele to get them information in their lobby. And we can do that with Parks and Rec. We can do it in a number of different places. So it is a lot more robust as far as what our abilities will be able to do. It'll also give us more backup. Really, we don't have any backup right now with our programming other than tapes and DVDs, which do break down in time. We'll be able to go to a cloud-based archiving system. So it does expand what we can do and protect the content of the channel. But everything goes through this. And we already have this content with digital signage, and we'll actually be able to use it in a much more effective way.
And with the digital signage, would we be able to, if there were private businesses that were high volume and wanted to have, inform the town? Or
yeah, well, I mean, I think
would that theoretically be a possibility?
Well, I mean, with government access, we're not allowed to sell advertisement. So that's really kind of outside. If it's a sponsorship in conjunction with a town program, of course.
I mean, like if a Bridge Market, for example, if they wanted to have information on what's going on in their space and basically be an access point for community information.
That's really more of a policy issue, and that's more up to the powers that be.
But that's technology that would then exist with this and that does not exist now.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm in full support of this. I know that there's a lot of people in the community that utilize the station to, I live next to someone who's 92 years old, and they don't get out. I mean, well, he gets around better than I do, but they're not out late, you know what I mean? And this is a way for them to know what's going on in our government and keeps us informed. And if you ever happen to be absent, you can go back and replay it, and sometimes you might not want to, but I like to replay it, and I think it's great. And I've been watching this channel for quite some time. That's why I got involved. So I think it's a huge asset to the community, and people moving into the area, I tell them, watch the station, watch this and find out what's going on. So I support what you guys are doing, and I think it's a great asset to the community, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I said this at the committee meeting, and I'll just say it again. There's a significant investment in technology, and I just want to make sure that as we're buying technology around the town, that somebody is coordinating this so that different departments aren't buying different things and then they don't sync up, and then 2 years later we've got to buy more. So I would just ask that the town manager ensure that as different departments are buying technology, that they're compatible and that there's a master plan that you guys are thinking about. Thank you.
And just to mention, maybe not all RTM members know, but we have the IT steering committee that all these things go through to make sure everything coordinates together because of that issue in the past. But yeah, that's a priority to make sure things work together.
Representative Marshall?
I think the most important thing that wasn't mentioned as part of this pitch is there's security concerns. 10 years, 8 and 12 years is like 100 years with regard to the technology and the systems we're talking about. So the security is, I think, the biggest thing you're getting out of this, besides the other features. So.
All right, I think we're ready for a vote. So we have $49,000 on the floor for library and GMT server replacement and upgrade. This is CIP account 7Q. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes, 32 in favor, 1 opposed, no abstentions. Thank you.
CIP 7R, Town Meeting Room AV and Presentation Equipment, page 232. A motion of $18,000 was made by Rep. Newsom, seconded by Rep. McDermott. There was a discussion on the age of the audiovisual equipment and also the new FCC regulations that came out with allowing us not to use the wireless mics you see here. And that's, so I make the motion for 18,000, or move the number of 18,000.
Second.
All right, CIP 7R, Town Meeting Room Presentation Equipment Replacement Upgrade. We have a motion for $18,000. It's been seconded. Are there any questions? Representative Marshall?
Thank you. I had a quick question. So how much, so I know that the technology we have is old, right? That's part that's written here. But how many units are we talking about? Like how much money, the new rules came out, we can't do anything about it. Is it just the government, FCC, is it's invoked on the town of Groton can't use them, or can we?
No, they didn't pick on just the town of Groton. Yeah. Basically, just to give a quick summary of what's happening is the FCC, actually Congress, came up with a digital broadband plan a couple of years ago. And because of all the cell phone technology, we've gone all digital, and everything's up there, and we're running out of space. And they were afraid of everything kind of slowing down. And so they started looking around at all the different areas where they could gain some space. And they looked at the broadcasters years ago, they would hand out a license to a local TV station, no problem. Here you go. As long as nobody is in your area is on the same channel, we'll give you that. They were handing out like crazy. As time went along, we've gotten into digital television now. There is no more analog television with the rabbit ears that you could tune in, fuzz in and out. That's a digital signal. So their bandwidth got a little bit thinner, but their uses have gotten a lot more. Cell phones have become, everybody's got a cell phone in their pocket right now. And they're like little mini computers, and they're taking up band space. So what they did was they became the middleman for an auction, basically, to allow the TV stations to auction off some of that band space. And as part of that band space, the 600 in particular, 600 megahertz band space, which these microphones run off of, they are including that in there as well. So I'm really not afraid of us interfering with somebody, unless they were standing right next to us or something. But I'm more afraid of us actually just getting wiped out, and that will happen. We'll get digital interference, which we're already starting to see. They gave a rough date of June or July of 2020, but they absolutely said they could move that date up at any time. Particularly in certain areas, they could just shut down later and say, if you're using those and you're not a licensed user, which these are not licensed because we're not a theater, we're under 100. So basically, we'll get interference and they'll just basically stop working. And that's really for everybody across the country. It's not just us. They also did that in the 700 megahertz bandwidth, which we actually had a few microphones that were in that. And that was actually in the public safety sector of the broadband stream. So yeah, we have about, to get back to your question, we have about 25 units, 24, 25 units. I counted 25. We have one that's broken back there now. And that's why you have one less out here. And each of them costs about $650 for the receiver and the transmitter. This is a transmitter and a microphone. So, and then you total that up plus a few peripheral pieces of equipment like, power supplies and antennas. So I don't have to have 20 antennas. I can have one packed antenna with one set of antennas that feeds it all. It comes out to about that number of 18,000.
It's a shame we can't bill Congress for that.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to.
So, is there a plan? So these will still work. Can you auction them off? Can you sell them? Can you keep some of the money? I mean,
actually, when you go to buy, they're actually a lot of the vendors I've been seeing, that we look at are actually trying to get rid of their inventory, and they have a very small print at the bottom saying may not work after July of 2020. So unless you're in an area that's not very congested, you're probably not going to. These are really not going to be worth a whole lot.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like perfectly good equipment that would work.
And to be honest with you, we're also going to start looking at other technology, like Bluetooth technology for certain situations that might actually prevent this. These microphones are actually first generation from Sennheiser, and they're about 18 years old. They really have lasted us a long time. We have not really invested any money really to say in the wireless microphones. We use them in just about every building, but particularly here, the senior center uses a lot, the library uses a lot, the studio uses them, Parks and Rec uses them, the annex. They're really all over the place. We didn't just buy 25 all at once, but in the beginning of the 2000s, when they had some money, they did invest in quite a few of it. So Sennheiser's been a very good product for us, and these guys have really been through a lot. They've been dropped in the senior center, and they still keep on ticking. So.
All right. I see no more hands. So, Representative Richards.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to comment that I saw that the town manager's number was higher than what we're looking at right now. It's the 24,000, and the town council brought it down to 18. Looks like that would be taking off a project at the town hall annex. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on not having that included this year.
It was taken out at the council, I believe, and this is really part of an overall meeting room plan that we came up with to coordinate our meeting room equipment for presentations. It is really been a long time since we've actually invested in technology, and now everything is technology-driven, including meetings. And I really kind of saw a need, and the rest of the administration saw a need that it really affects the way we do business. When we go to the council meeting of the RTM, we're putting up screens, and people are having a hard time seeing things. We have equipment that's been bought a little bit here, a little bit there. This is 20 years old, this is 15 years old, this is 10 years old. And it was not really bought in a coordinated way. And so what we wanted to do is to, over a 5-year period, is to coordinate all of the town meeting rooms to be the same. So if you went into the annex and were able to use a piece of equipment there, and then you came here, you're probably going to have to use the same thing, because it's going to be very, very similar. So we were looking to coordinate the purchases and to bring everything back up to the standards that we need to for making presentations today.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So the 24,000, would there be a problem with purchasing the mics and that other equipment separately? Is there a possibility of any roadblocks by doing that? Like, are those linked together as well, or?
No, it's not linked together. Really, the first year, the plan was really to come up with a plan and to talk to consultants that are really diverse in today's technology. I'm busy doing a lot of these meetings. I'm not going to trade shows and things like that. So we really wanted to talk to some professionals that really knew how to design meeting rooms. So that first year was really a planning year, and a lot of that money was toward planning, not so much buying the equipment. So really, what the council's doing is saying, okay, we recognize that the microphones really need to be taken care of right now. We're buying that now, and they're kind of kicking the can down the road here about looking at.
I'd like to move another number. I'd like to move $24,000. I feel that the $6,000 is really not going to do much to the taxpayers at this rate. I think if we move that $6,000 to the next, if you look at the mapped out plan here, we're just adding more to the following year. We gave $5,000 to the orchestra and a bunch of other stuff. I think. Second? Sorry. Second. So I'm in full support. I think let's get this package all done at once and see it up and running.
All right, so we have another number on the floor, which will take 2/3 of us to pass, just so you know. Any other questions or discussion? Representative McDermott?
Thank you, Madam. Sean, wasn't the reason that we were talking about in committee is that you were going to do most of the planning and not have to bring consultants and so forth on board? That's why the $6,000 was out?
We are going to take on some of that down the road, but there are a few projects, particularly the annex project, which would be it's going to deal with electrical issues that are, I'm not an electrician, and I don't put out plans for RFPs or anything like that. So we would need somebody that has some expertise in some other areas that I'm not the expert.
But you feel comfortable at this point in time doing what you have to do with what the money you have, don't you?
I feel comfortable, but I'm probably a little bit behind on what is around the corner for tomorrow. Not so much, I know it's here today, but I'm looking down tomorrow. So when we buy things, they're going to be around for 15, 20, 18 years, like these microphones. I want to make sure that when we invest a significant amount of money into technology, that it's the right technology that will be here for a while.
Representative Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just in general, I think it's a very good idea when budgeting things not to budget everything to happen right immediately. And it's better to probably just pepper things in. And besides, if we can handle it for now, we could save the other $6,000 and maybe we can get a better deal when the technology is increased that much more. So I think it's better just to take care of the things that are necessary at the time instead of just to be emergent. And though it's $6,000, that's not a lot, but it's just the principle of how to budget things and pepper things in so it's not a spike in any way or form. Thank you.
Representative Whitehouse?
Just so I understand, because I've heard two different things. The $6,000 would be to hire experts who have expertise that you don't in what's coming in the future, because you're not going to trade shows, which is good because you're doing the work here, which is what we want you to do. So again, we'll bring out outside expertise that we wouldn't want to have in-house. And so that additional $6,000 will avoid buying the technology that might be phased out in 5 years because you don't realize what's coming. Because is that pretty much what that $6,000 is for?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So it kind of gets to, I believe it was Representative Newsom who mentioned this, the idea of making sure our technology is going to work together and that we're making long-term choices. So this is almost like technology insurance, making sure that we're buying the right thing instead of just the right thing for the past. So, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
See no hands in the air? So, Representative Newsom, I know if I looked at you, you would raise your hand.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I support the $18,000. I think this is sufficient for this time. The other $6,000, at some point in the future, there's additional improvements to the Town Hall Annex, different from just the microphones. I'm satisfied with just replacing the microphones for right now, so I'll support the $18,000 figure.
All right. So we have a number on the floor. It is $24,000, and this is for CIP 7R Town Meeting Room AV Presentation Equipment Replacement and Upgrade. All in favor, please raise your hand.
We need a roll call, real quick.
Oh, we need a roll call vote?
Which number are we doing first? I'm sorry.
The lower number.
24,000, and we're going to take a roll call vote. We do the last motion first.
Adams, yes? No? Or Adams?
No.
No. Bailey?
No.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bordelon?
Yes.
Casper?
Yes.
Chase?
No.
Frickman?
No.
Gustafson?
Yes.
Hanscom?
No.
Katowski?
No.
Marshall?
Yes.
Martin?
No.
Massett?
No.
McDermott?
No.
Melendez?
Yes.
Mello Miller?
Yes.
Merritt?
Yes.
Monahan?
Excuse me, yes.
Newsom?
No.
Oliver?
No.
Perry?
Yes.
Quinn?
No.
Richards?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Stanford?
No.
Streeter Irma?
Yes.
James Streeter?
Yes.
Strode?
No.
Washington?
No.
Wells?
Yes.
Whitehouse?
Yes.
Whitney?
No.
Eben?
No.
Wow, that was close. 16 in favor, 17 opposed.
Okay, that motion fails. 16 in, oh, any abstentions?
No, there can't be.
Oh, you didn't, no, we already did that. 16 in favor, 17 opposed. That motion fails. We have another motion on the floor, 18,000. Do you want another roll call vote? No. All in favor of that, please raise your hand. I'm doing this to keep you all awake. Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. 31 in favor, 2 opposed, no abstentions. All right, it is 10 o'clock. I want to get a feel from you. We have an opportunity to finish our entire agenda tonight and have a celebration on Monday, if you guys are into that.
Yeah.
So who would like to stay beyond to finish our agenda? Who would like not to? I think that the stays are exceeded that.
Needs to leave, let me know.
And if you have to leave, please just make sure you make eye contact with one of us so we can know you're departing our quorum. Okey doke. Thank you. Keep going. Oh, are you done? Oh. You just want to be done. All right, 3310, right? Now we're up to that.
Account 3310, borrow at CT on page 152. Motion was made by Rep. McDermott for $18,300, second by Rep. Strode. Discussion, library director discussed what borrow at CT was and the service it provides to the town. Voting in favor of the 18,300 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, and Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. Madam Moderator, move the number of $18,300.
All right, did that get a second? Yeah, good. So we have account 3310, borrow at Connecticut, $18,300, and it's been seconded. Is there any questions or discussion? No? Seeing absolutely not one hand up, I'm going to just call a vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Account number 1051, Human Services, page 140. The motion was made by Rep. Hanscom for $610,523, seconded by Rep. Strode. Discussion. Marge Beals, Director of Human Services, prepared an overview of her department as she listed the number of household and clients served each year. That was attached to your minutes that was sent. And also Rep. Newsom arrived at 7 p.m. at this time.
Did you put a motion?
Sorry, and voting in favor of $610,523 with Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Oliver, and Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, Rep. Newsom. Madam Moderator, move the number of $610,523.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been seconded. This is account 1051, Human Services, for $610,523. Is there any questions or discussion? Representative Katowski?
I just have a comment. It was very interesting listening to the town council deliberations regarding this account. Based on the information, I learned that this department is basically a referral service. I didn't know that. I also didn't know that there are only 3 towns in the region that have social services department. The reason is that the actual programs and benefit come from the state, so the applicants need to dial 211 to get in the system to get the benefits that they are eligible for. I also didn't know that the food locker is managed and operated by the Mystic Congregational Church. Another thing, there seems to be quite a lot of duplication of services here with the state for programs and benefits, the school system for counseling, and the senior center for senior programs. Also, the taxpayers are funding 15 outside agencies in Fund 1054 that we approved tonight. And considering that we had an 8.7% tax increase last year, and this year we're at least at 4.2%, I think it may be time to start scaling back on services that are duplicated and or maybe provided by the state. And to the town manager, I was wondering if it might be worthwhile researching why Groton is only one of 3 towns in the area that has a social services department. Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Newsom?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Could the director respond? Is there anything you'd like to add to that, ma'am?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
My question was, is there anything you wanted to add in response to what Representative Katowski was saying?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We're not just a referral service. I, in fact, supplied quite a few statistics to the RTM members, at least to Representative Katowski, about the services that we provide in the department. We network certainly with many of those outside agencies that we were talking about earlier, but because those services, such as the Women's Center and Legal Services, are not programs or services that we provide in the department. So we do refer out to those agencies. But we also do a whole lot of services in the department for families and individuals in Groton. I'm trying to recall everything that Representative Katowski just said. As far as the human services departments in the area, the major departments are in Groton, in Norwich, and Stonington. Each one is a little bit different. We don't operate the same way. We have different aspects of our programming. New London does have a human services director, but she operates on a very different basis than what we do in the outlying towns. New London has a lot of programs based in that community that provide services directly. And they're not necessarily programs that are accessible or available to clients in our particular town. So we are constantly providing services to those in the community, and it certainly is far more than just referrals.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Back to the duplication of services, and when the last question got moved when you were up here, and I didn't get to say this, and it's irrelevant to actually this as well, is in the Human Service Department, a lot of times people need service and they're actually refused service. So duplications are important in aspects where, you know, beds aren't open for people, women in need, children, you know, like they run out of supplies or resources. So some people will call it a duplication of services until you actually need those services and the door is shut for you. So I'm actually very proud that Groton provides these services. I've never had to utilize them, but I'm thankful that they're here for the people who utilize them. And I would like to see more outreach programs. Are you still utilizing the community gardens as well in the back? Are you guys still doing that? Yeah. I found out about that program. I encourage people to go down and take a look. It's, you know, helping people that may not have yards, that live in the city or in apartments, and they can come down and rent like a garden space, and they work with them. So there's a lot of outreach. So I'm actually very excited about some of the programs. I have some questions about the general fund. Is there any more detail you can give on that, since that's the largest portion of the budget? Just some more explanations as to what is in there, what that fund will do. I mean, revenue center, I'm sorry. So that's
what?
That's where the money comes from. I'm sorry, I read the line wrong. Sorry, I looked at the wrong line. So I'm in full support, and like I said, just because other towns don't have the service, you know, this is something that like a library, like everything else that runs this town, having a place to fall back on if people need it is very important, and I just want people to consider that. Thank you.
Representative Bailey?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I have a question for the Director of Human Services. Why would there be a $33,000 increase from last year to this year?
That was on the basis of union negotiated contracts, salary increases.
That's a pretty large increase. I would like to move another number. I'd like to move 6 X-ray correction. I would like to move $590,000.
Second. Let me see if I got this. 590,000?
That's correct. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Okay. We have a motion and it's been seconded. Representative McDermott, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm pleased to hear that we provide a lot of human services here and that we have some social services as well. Can you give us any numbers on some of these activities that we employ?
The figures that, I don't know if these were supplied to every, yeah. I did supply statistics to Representative Katowski. And I don't know if those got beyond the committee, perhaps, but I had said, she'd asked about numbers, and I said on average for the renters rebate program, we assist 600 households annually. For the energy assistance, the state energy assistance program that's managed through TVCCA and that we provide directly in our office, 300 households annually. Operation Fuel, 40 households annually. Project Warm Up, 25 households annually. Groton Utilities Energy Assistance, 70 households annually. discretionary fund, 150 households annually. The food locker, 600 households annually. Holiday distributions, 1,000 households annually. I mean, I could go on, but it's.
How does that compare with some of the other communities that you mentioned earlier, like Stonington and Norwich?
I don't have their numbers, and there's something in Stonington. It's a little bit different because they also have the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center, and the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center has some services that it provides that are comparable to what we do, and that Stonington Human Services doesn't do. So it's hard to compare. And same with Norwich. It's a very different operation. I think in Norwich, the senior center comes under Human Services in Norwich. It's just a different
Well, I'm sure Norwich and New London are hubs for social services anyway.
Excuse me?
As opposed to Groton. I mean, they're really hubs for social services.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I just ask, what would a decrease of, is that 20,000? How would that impact your services?
I would have to eliminate the part-time youth counselor.
Okay. Representative Marshall?
So I was wondering if, is it possible for Representative Bailey to elaborate on the rationale for why he thinks the cut was there? I don't see the numbers that he mentioned. I see a increase of $11,000 in the full-time pay, and not. You don't have to. I'm just asking if you wanted to elaborate on, like, I don't see the numbers that you see that resulted in you making that recommendation. I just wonder if you could elaborate. Just I'm curious.
May I?
Yes, please, Representative Bailey.
I elaborate on that by last year's approved number.
Which was
510
for that?
Correction, hold on. Please stand by. Thank you very much. It was $577,000 and $399. $5,777 correction. $5,770,000 and wait, correction. Man, I'm really in pain right now.
Sit down. You don't have to stand.
I'll just do it phonetically, okay? 577,399. That was last year's number approved.
See, I don't see that. I see this as a decrease of $3,738 from last year.
Page 40.
Or increase, rather.
42, the salary. I'm not, sorry.
That's what was approved last year.
So that maybe the book is inaccurate. I'm looking at the book. Something.
And I was here last year.
No, I understand.
Okay.
Maybe the book is inaccurate with regard to the last year.
Mr. Burke, could you clarify this, because I'm equally confused?
Sure. Again, the budget, there was a budget amendment for once the union contracts were approved, those pay changes were made and incorporated into the budget. So you're seeing the adjusted budget in the book here. So there was a lower number originally budgeted, knowing that there would be some increases coming for the union contracts, and then they were put in during the year. So the current budget is what's in the book, though.
Okay, I'm not getting what I need, but it's fine. So the union contracts have been.
Representative Bailey, you can sit, because I don't want to hurt your back.
It was the budget summary from last year, what was approved.
Okay. Yeah, because I would agree with Representative Marshall, those numbers are not something I'm looking at.
Okay, and I guess I apologize for, it's been a long day. I don't see how cutting money that's already been allocated to, it was increased for union contract negotiations.
Right, pay raises.
Pay raises, so it's already negotiated. I support the original number in my confusion.
Representative Massett? No. Representative Chase?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Can you tell me what the percentages of children that the counselors see?
I'm not sure the percentages of children.
How many children do the counselors see?
They, the full-time, we have two counselors working with the children. One is a part-time counselor, one is a full-time counselor. The full-time counselor is 35 hours a week, and that person has, on average, usually around 15 clients at a time that he's working with. The part-time counselor, we really can't go much over, say, 8 clients that she works with at a time, just because she's 20 hours a week, and there's only so much time in the week. I think last year the total number of kids counseled was just over 60. And that's down somewhat from years past when we've had as many as 3 full-time counselors at one time, and positions have been cut back. But I'd say on average we are probably around 60 clients a year for youth and family services.
And aren't there counselors in the school system?
There are.
Is there a
Some
reason why
schools
they
have
can't
school-based
see
health
those at
centers.
school?
Actually, they refer people to us with some regularity because they max out as to how many students they can work with based on their staffing. And also, there sometimes are situations that they feel would be better handled in a community-based setting such as ours versus the school. There are issues perhaps that are family-centered more so than school-related issues. So, but we do have a good working relationship with the staff in every school in the community, and get several referrals from the schools.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Bordelon?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Would you say the school counselors, not school counselors, the counselors at the Human Resource Center are also helping maybe people that can't afford the co-pays with their insurance out in town and things like that you get referrals for? And also, just from my own experience in human service, a lot of the families, if there's a certain situation that's based around family, a parent cannot miss a day of school. A parent cannot miss a day of work to come to the school, and then that child is missing class time, which creates another crisis because the child should be in class. So the counseling that they do receive during school usually is during a curriculum time, and there's not a lot of after school. So that's when I believe you guys come into play. So anyway, I just wanted to see if that was the case or.
Yes, and we also can work with kids in the schools, which is great for a parent that doesn't have transportation or whose schedule is not able to bring the child to us for counseling. The schools are extremely amenable to having us go into the schools and work with kids there.
Thank you.
Representative Whitehouse?
So that $20,000 cut would mean losing a third of your capacity for counseling kids?
As far as counseling kids, it would take, I'd have 1 full-time counselor left.
And as I read this, your budget last year was $606,000 and change?
Yes.
Okay. So that $590 would be a $16,000 cut from last year versus the first number, which is a $4,000 increase from last year?
Yeah, just under 4,000. Right.
Okay. Yeah, because this seems like, it seems like this helps the most vulnerable in the population in various respects at a cost of approximately $14 per resident of the town of Groton, which seems to me like a very important thing to support. So I support the original $610,000 number. Thank you.
I have a question, though. So I'm looking at page 143, and I don't see any partial FTEs. I see under Counselor 2, I see 2 FTEs.
There's a counselor with the Family Support Center who is working with parents versus children.
So is this the part-time counselor under regular part-time?
Yes.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you for clarifying that. All right, any other questions? No? Seeing none, I think we're ready to have a vote. $590,000, account 1051. This is Human Services. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I believe that fails. 3 in favor, 30 opposed. Is that correct? 29 in favor, 3 opposed. 3 in favor, 29 opposed. I'll get it right. No abstentions. All right. So we have another number on the floor, 610,523. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that would be, are we at 33 or?
We're at 32.
Okay. Okay. So that's 29 in favor, 3 opposed, no abstentions. That motion passes. Thank you. Bye. Tom Frickman. Tom Frickman just left.
Account number 7320, Human Services Assistance Fund, page 144. Motion was made for $10,000 by Rep. Hanscom, second by Rep. Oliver. There was no discussion. Voting in favor for $10,000 was Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. I move the number of $10,000.
Second.
So we have a motion. It's been seconded for $10,000. This is account 7320, Human Services Assistance Fund. Any questions on this? No? Seeing none. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously.
Account number 1007, Regional Agencies, page 176. Motion 132,034, $132,034 was made by Rep. Strode, seconded by Rep. Hanscom. Discussion, Rep. Strode and other committee members know that C-Bus ridership seems to be very low. The committee is very interested in the latest ridership number statistics. Voting in favor of the $132,034, can't speak now. Rep. Hanscom, McDermott, Oliver, and Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. I move the number of $132,034.
Second.
This obviously. What account number was that? I'm sorry.
Yes.
400. What? Yes. Is there a second for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Representative, we have a motion on the floor for account 1007, and this is our regional agencies, and it's $132,034. Representative Katowski?
Thank you. Aren't these cost centers supposed to be voted on individually?
We don't have to. We certainly could if you wanted to.
Well, let me just make a point, and then you can decide how you want to do it. From the presentation from the seat representative at the council, and then from reading the minutes, 2 questions were not answered by the representative. 1, how many riders are there in Groton? And 2, how much does it cost the town? Is that right?
Mr. Byrd, do you have that information?
Representative Byrd, I'm sorry, Town Manager Byrd actually has the information on the riders.
I received a report from SEAT.
Okay.
The main route, that Route 11 that serves the town, that's about 70,000 riders a year. Now, there's a couple other routes that touch into Groton that isn't broken out, so there's a few thousand, likely more people than that, but 70,000 for that main route.
Thank you.
Representative Bordelon?
We need to bus. I mean, people utilize that. I see children and women and all types of people going to work, from Stop and Shop and stuff to get their groceries, whatever they need to do. Go to the doctor's appointments. I mean, not providing the ride, well, then we better fully fund the VNA services so the nurses can visit. I mean, how are people supposed to get around? I mean, they deserve, anybody's at any point of breaking down and needing transportation, and with the TIF, if we're trying to build a you know, an economic area that's catering to youth and things like that. It's you know, not every town, it's other people that just want to ride it, you know, to get from one point to another and not use their car. So we got to support the bus in the town. I mean.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we have $132,034 on the floor for Regional Agencies Account 1007. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously. Oh, we'd like to recognize the Judge Keppel.
Just came in case, good, all appropriate judge, just came in case there are any questions about the regional appropriate report. Continue to thoroughly enjoy being our.
We just passed it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Yeah, so we need to accept those minutes.
Yep. So should I talk about us motioning out of the meeting?
Yes.
Committee meeting?
Yeah, and then
Motion to adjourn was made by Rep. Oliver, second by Newsom. Voting in favor was Reps. Hanscom, McDermott, Newsom, Oliver, Strode. Opposed, none. Abstaining, none. The meeting was adjourned at 9:50 p.m. And I will be, I'm not sure how to make the motion.
Just make a motion to
amending the minutes that were previously gave out to the RTM.
Yeah, those weren't adopted though. So you amended them all here already, so.
Right.
So approved as amended.
Just say I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right, any questions? Clarification? No? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes? What was the date of those? Of your meeting?
May 2nd,
Of the
2018.
May 2nd meeting of the, let's see, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? No? Okay. So we're going to take a break for, if we're going to do capital reserve fund, capital reserve and contingency, I believe Ms. Landry, how much time do you need to do that? You're ready. Okay, we don't need a break.
The girl is on it. Who's going to put the hair
Who puts this on the floor? Oh, Deb. Okay.
Okay. So this is account 5010, Capital Reserve Fund, page 202. This account represents the capital improvement project for 2019 that have been approved by the town council, funded by the general fund, and the treatment plant projects. This account is determined by the projects that have been approved. This account was reduced by the town manager. No state revenue available for this account. These projects can only stay open for 5 years. If not fully expended, the funds go back to the capital reserve fund balance. The committee voted on $3,523,000.
Second.
That's a motion. Okay.
Yeah, that's a motion.
That's what the committee voted.
Yeah, that's what the committee voted.
We'll have a new number.
What?
We'll have the correct number. That's the number the committee voted,
Okay.
but the we.
Okay, so we shouldn't put that up? That's not going to be an amendment?
Right.
So we'll wait for your report then.
Okay, I'll give you the
Thank
number.
you. Sure.
Okay. The total number of projects that were approved by the council on the RTM are 3,528,000 even. And I believe that is larger than the council's number, so I think it requires 2/3 vote. Am I correct there, Betsy?
Yes. Yes, 2/3.
All right. Well, that's what I'm wondering about that procedure. Do I put the motion that the committee?
Well, this is the number that we had at the time, but as the RTM went on and approved different projects and added to what the town council did, the number has changed.
You can't, if you change this number, you'll have to go back and change projects that you approved.
So, would you like to make this motion?
Okay, I make a motion for $3,528,000.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion. It's been seconded for account 5010, Capital Reserve Fund, $3,528,000. Is there any comment or questions? Representative Merritt?
Once again, I have a question about the difference up there in the book. I got 3766.
So this is a number that's calculated after all the CIPs have been voted on. Should I ask?
Do you understand that? This is the number that after the RTM voted on all the capital improvement projects, Cindy totaled up all those numbers, and that's what that number came to.
Right.
So if you don't vote on this number, we have to go back to the CIP projects and start moving the numbers around.
It's pretty much a done deal.
Yeah, it's pretty much a done deal, because you already voted on the projects.
The projects have been, can I speak?
Yes, please.
Oh. The projects have been voted on individually, but they have to be voted on in total on the Capital Reserve Fund projects in this Fund 501, the grand total.
So are we ready to vote? Is that clarified, Representative Merritt? Okay. Okay, so we have a number on the floor, $3,528,000, account 5010, and this is Capital Reserve Fund. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. 30 in favor. None opposed, no abstentions. The next
account is 1075, the capital reserve / contributions. It's on page 199. Now, once again, the number I'm going to give you is not the number, it's not going to be the second number that I'm going to give you. I'm going to read the number that the committee voted on, but again, as the projects went on, we have a different number at the end, okay? Okay. $2,292,000 is the amount of money with all the adjustments going to the Capital Reserve Fund to cover the projects that have been approved by the town council. The town is using $500,000 of fund balance the town is using $500,000 of the fund balance. So the new number is $2,297,000.
That's correct?
correct
Okay.
number.
Is there a motion? Can you make that as a motion, please?
Okay, so I move $2,297,000.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor for $2,297,000, and this is account 1075, Capital Reserve. So is there any discussion or questions on that? We all set? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously, 31. what?
31.
Oh, 31, we're back to 31 in favor.
Okay, the last account is 1074. It's the contingency account on page 212. This account represents the amount of funds set aside for unforeseen expenses. The town's debt policy and fiscal practices specifies that an annual contingency reserve of not more than 2% of the general fund operating budget must be maintained. The $500,000 that is requested is 0.4% of the general fund operating budget. Representative Kotowski stated her concern with tax increases and asked if the town manager could live with $450,000 in the contingency. He said he could, and hopefully there will not be any major unforeseen expenses. So the motion is for $450,000 for contingency. Again, this fund is for unforeseen expenses. The original amount was $500,000, but we reduced it to $450,000.
All right.
Which the town manager agreed on.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for $450,000 for contingency account 1074. Representative Massett?
Just a question for the town manager. At some point, does it not start to look not too good for us if we, from a bonding standpoint, depending on the percentage that we have in contingency and the amount that is going to be in contingency now, is that close to that?
It's really fund balance that the bonding agencies care about, not the contingency. Yeah.
Representative Whitehouse?
What happens to contingency fund money at the end of the year if we don't use it?
It just goes back into the general fund.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I think we're on our last account. It's kind of like you need a drum roll. Account 1074, good. $450,000 for contingency. All in favor, raise both hands. No, raise one hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes unanimously. Is that 31? Oh, one abstention, sorry. What was that?
30 in favor.
30 in favor, none opposed, one abstention. Thank you. So thank you all. Thank you for...
Can we approve these minutes?
Yes, we need to approve those minutes. Did you finish reading them?
Yep, I'm all done.
Okay, then make a motion.
Oh, I could tell you that the committee adjourned the meeting at 9:25 p.m., and that's it.
All right,
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the Finance Committee, April 25th.
All right, the motion has been seconded to approve the Finance Committee meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries unanimously. All in favor? Oh, I would like Representative Bordelon wanted to make an announcement.
No, I had
so-
one other question. Do we have a number as what the total cuts, like what's our percent right now, or will that be posted tomorrow, or whatever? What's our total, like, increase in tax, like, what are we looking at as far as numbers go? With all the, for the mill rates and everything else? Okay, that has been, And, and I spoke with the moderator and the clerk, and I'm not sure if Monday, if people wanted to get together and kind of just celebrate the end. I don't know if anybody's interested. We could always do an email. We could pick a spot and just meet up.
We could go to the par 4.
It could be at 5 or 6 o'clock, so, and just kind of relax. I don't know if anybody wants to.
Yeah, I
Just a
think
thought.
You should all have that date anyway reserved in your scheduler, right? So if you want, it's certainly not required, but it would be nice. So perhaps you can send an email around, or perhaps the town clerk could.
Well, One
Representative
question.
Bailey?
Would they consider that, like, we have to give it public notice because it's a quorum or anything? I just never know,
I
never
highly
know.
doubt you'll have a quorum.
All right, all right.
All right, meeting is adjourned.